Hello and welcome to tonight's full council meeting. I'll try again. Hello and good evening. Welcome to tonight's full council meeting. We'll go straight into agenda item 1, which is announcements by the Mayor and Chief Exec. I understand the Chief Exec has one announcement to make. Let you go first.
Thank you. National Carers Leavers Week commences on the 28th of October, which the Council will be extending and celebrating as Kirklees Care Leavers Month, where there will be a number of events which have been planned to take place in areas around the borough and which councillors are encouraged to participate in. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. I have a few announcements to make. So October also marks Black History Month. It gives everyone the opportunity to share, celebrate and understand the impact of Black heritage and culture. People from African and Caribbean backgrounds have been a fundamental part of our rich cultural heritage here in Kirklees. So I would encourage you all, any members who are invited to any events happening in your wards or beyond, please do go along. It is, well, you may have seen that all our town halls were lit in blue and pink over the past week. It was to raise awareness around Baby Loss Week. Baby Loss Week happens every year between the 9th and the 15th of October, and it's a time for everyone in the baby loss community and beyond to come together to remember our much loved and missed babies and to raise awareness of pregnancy and baby loss. I had the privilege of visiting Talk Through, who are a Huddersfield-based charity and have been supporting women and bereaved families in the Kirklees area and beyond for over 25 years. So if in the future there is ever anything happening, I would encourage all members to please go along and support local charities in your area who do tremendous work for people like myself. So I just wanted to give them a shout out. As you will have noticed, the agenda items in our agenda for tonight's meeting, agenda items 10, 12, 13, 14, 20, 21, 22, right down to 27, have all been deferred from the last meeting. So there is quite a bit to get through. So I would hope that you are all comply with what we need to do, and we can get through quite a heavy agenda. I'd also like to wish Councillor Itra Ali a very happy birthday today. I often say all the greats were born in October. They include Mahatma Gandhi, John Lennon, and of course the Mayor of Kirklees. So happy birthday, Councillor Ali. I will also be calling for a 15-minute break at around the 7 p.m-ish mark. It might be slightly before, slightly after. Let's just see how we get on. Okay, everybody happy with that? Fantastic. Right, we will move on to agenda item 2, which is apologies for any absences. Councillor Sokol.
Madam Mayor, we have no apology from Labour Group, but Councillor Tyler Hawken and Councillor Eric Fast, they are coming a bit late because of a traffic problem. Thank you.
Councillor Sokol. Councillor Richard Smith.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have Councillor Tony McGrath and Lisa Holmes. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smith. Councillor Ahmed.
Councillor Adam Zaman, Councillor Paul Moore, and you're sort of stuck in traffic.
Thank you, and I also understand that Councillor Paula Davies, Councillor Kath Pinnock and Councillor Andrew Marchington are also absent today. Thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Munro. I think I've done your bit for you. It's fine, it's fine. Moving on to agenda item 3, which is the minutes of the previous meeting. I move that the minutes of the meeting of Council held on the 18th of September 24 be approved as a correct record. Is that seconded?
Seconded, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Smage. Please vote by a show of hands. Thank you. That is carried. Agenda item 4, declaration of interests. Members who have any disclosable pecuniary interests which would prevent them from discussing or voting on any items should disclose their interests now. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to declare an other interest on agenda item 11, which is the Members' Allowance Independent Review Panel report. The report actually makes mention specifically of the Chair of Corporate Governance and Audit, which of course I am. Therefore, nobody else in the room would be impacted by that. I've checked with legal and they said I should declare it as another interest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I think that's been noted by legal. Thank you. Any other interest to declare? If not, can I remind any members who have declared an interest to complete the form and submit it to the clerk by the end of the meeting. Thank you. Agenda item 5, petitions from members of the council. Are there any petitions? Councillor Bramwell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Today, on behalf of myself, Councillor Anwar and all the undersigned, I am honoured to present a petition with over 5,000 signatures to full council. This petition urges Kirklees Council to take the following actions. Reopen the dry side of Dewsbury Sports Centre whilst prioritising a comprehensive strategic plan for the future of the wet side. Require the attendance of a senior officer at an overview and scrutiny meeting and to hold a full council debate on this issue. The closure of this centre has had a serious negative impact on our community and residents, physically and mentally. It has impacted grassroots organisations, disadvantaged young people, schools, the elderly and many other residents. The consultation initially conducted by Kirklees Council, along with today's presentation of over 5,000 signatures, clearly demonstrates the public's outrage and concern regarding this decision. Reopening Dewsbury Sports Centre is in the best interest of our residents and it is crucial for the council to engage with the community on this matter. We believe a full council debate will only amplify the voices of our residents and I would like to express my gratitude to the campaigners, to councillors in this room that have helped and today the people of North Kirklees come together to submit this petition.
In accordance with Council Procedure Rule 9.3, I direct that the subject matter of the petition be referred to the appropriate Executive Director for investigation. And I'd just like to remind members that petitions, when members have got petitions, you just hand them in. There isn't a speech or a presentation. I did allow it because you'd already started today, Councillor Bramwell, but just for future reference, I don't want it to set a precedent because I won't be allowing it. Thank you. Agenda item 6, deputations and petitions from the public. We have one deputation this evening. Can I please invite Sarah Blagborough to present her deputation?
Just say 1 minute. I think she overextended because it's supposed to say about what it is.
Yeah.
Call meetings and stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Welcome to the meeting. You have 5 minutes to present your deputation to the council. I understand that you will be splitting it because there's 2 speakers. That's absolutely fine. You do that how you need to on your side. Okay, over to you.
Thank you. My name's Sarah. I'm speaking today because my mum Janet is a resident at Castle Grange. It has been well documented that Kirklees Council needs to save money and fast. So maybe the risk of diluting care for the residents of Castle Grange and Claremont House is worth it. Maybe the risk of deterioration and a lower quality of life for these vulnerable residents is worth it. Maybe the risk of attacking staff terms and conditions and experienced staff leaving is worth it. But is it really? The figures Kirklees Council have presented themselves don't add up. Kirklees claim that they will save 1.8 million a year by privatising our specialist dementia care homes. The 2023-24 total cost per person per week to run Castle Grange and Claremont House is £1,290. This is close to the regional average for specialist residential dementia care across Yorkshire and Humber. £853 is the contribution that Kirklees state they can get away with paying if they transfer the homes to a private operator. But costs won't disappear with a new name above the door. So who will pay the difference? Will residents and their families be left with an extra £437 per week to find? Does Kirklees have a plan to subsidise this cost? This information remains unclear. 2021 figures show a stark contrast in affordability versus standards, and costs have increased by over 20% since then. In 2024, Kirklees' £853 per person per week will now fall in the inadequate CQC rating. Residents who cannot self-fund or provide third-party top-ups will end up here. This amounts to disability discrimination under the Equalities Act 2010. What will happen to quality, I hear you ask? To ensure that they make their profits without increasing costs, private operators will have to cut the quality of care, which means cutting staff budgets, training, equipment, maintenance and supplies. Why is this a problem? Lower staff and training budgets result in reduced quality and dignity of life, higher workload for remaining staff, greater risk to welfare and increased costs to local healthcare services. The CQC have identified that workforce shortages are a significant ongoing challenge. In 2023, there were 165,000 unfilled vacancies. When private operators provide less favourable employment terms and benefits, potential workers inevitably choose other sectors. In summary, Kirklees saves £1.8 million per year, but staff lose. Staff lose financial stability, jobs, training and self-worth. Residents lose. Residents lose quality and dignity of care or are forced to pay more for it, which is illegal discrimination on the grounds of disability. And other public sector agencies, such as the NHS, lose by experiencing higher costs due to higher levels of injury and other health conditions in the private sector. In the Cabinet meeting on the 8th of October, where this disastrous proposal was given the go-ahead, Councillor Khan made some very poignant points. This is a high-risk strategy. There were specific reasons why the decision was taken to deliver dementia care in-house. The high-end needs of dementia care require a lot of staff and 24-hour supervision, and we know that this is not profitable. We know it's not possible for the private sector to gain profit out of that without cutting quality. The Council won't have any legal standing to ensure that a private operator takes on these high-end needs. We also know, as a fact, that quality of care is related to staff conditions such as wages, training, expertise and stability. Lower turnover equals better quality services, and the Council will lose the power to affect these things.
But what evidence do we have that private sector can't meet our loved ones' needs? We have been collating heartbreaking stories from families of both Castle Grange and Claremont to gain understanding of their experiences, which demonstrates why we have continually expressed our worries and fears about private sector care. Quite simply, private-owned care homes put profit before care. We all know that. We have gathered information from families who have had experience of privately owned care homes, and the incidents and actions of these care homes are horrific. Here are some examples, and please be aware, these are from care homes rated good by CQC, the same care homes that Councillor Addy claims to be high-quality providers. Unwitnessed falls that result in broken hips, unexplained unwitnessed falls, blood and bruises, a resident kept in bed with their feet enraced so they couldn't get out, residents left in soiled underwear, a resident with celiac only being given a biscuit for breakfast, help with eating not offered and the meal being removed assuming they don't want it. These are all facts, they're not made up, and the families are willing to speak up publicly about them. What does happen in privately owned care homes is that staff levels are cut to the minimum, staff not qualified to care, such as the receptionist and maintenance staff, are included in care staff numbers. This not only restricts what the residents are allowed to do, but it's dangerous, hence the unwitnessed falls. Doors are locked because they say residents don't always get on with each other. They don't take residents who need help with feeding, as they are too time-consuming. Residents are medicated or kept in bed so they are more manageable. My mum was medicated for this reason in 2 private care homes, both rated good by CQC. Yet within a week of being at Claremont, staff questioned this and mum didn't need it. She was medicated for over 2 years for no reason other than to make people's job easier and the company's more profit. Managers receive a bonus for admitting self-funded fee payers over local authority and for saving money in the kitchen, so cheaper and limited food options are given. In contrast, 2 examples of care at Claremont and Castle Grange. Our one lady walks all day. She has the run of the home and can walk freely whether it's night or day. The doors aren't locked, no one says you can't go there, no. Another resident is immobile and non-verbal. It would be easy and much less time consuming for the carers just to leave this resident in bed 24/7. But every day she gets up and she's involved and never left on her own. This most definitely would not happen in the private sector. The difference between Castle Grange and Claremont and privately owned homes is huge and very clear. You all have the power to decide which direction the latter years of our loved one goes, and we urge you to put yourself in our shoes and do the right thing for these vulnerable, unwell, reliant and much loved Kirklees residents.
Thank you. Could I ask Councillor Addy to respond, please? Thank you.
Once again, I have to reiterate that we don't find ourselves in this position lightly. We found ourselves in the position where we thought we would have to close the care homes. We've come to another option which was asked for, and we've brought this forward. We're not closing them. You've made some quite damning assertions about the private sector care that most of our dementia care residents live in. And it would be really helpful, because when care fails, it needs reporting and pulling up if we got the details of where and when these things happened. And I'm very happy to try and take that forward for you, because that is how we make sure we stay on top of places where things do fall down. But I'm not sure I entirely recognise this as the general picture of the independent sector. We work closely with the independent sector. I don't think it's a fair generalisation about the majority of residential dementia care facilities in Kirklees. This is where most people are provided with their care. We only have 2 care homes. And there's no reason to believe care will be lower when we move into the private sector. We are looking at quality care. We are looking to move into a quality care provider. You asked some specifics. So how will Kirklees ensure fees are not exceed a sustainable and manageable rate for families? Under the 2014 Care Act, the Council has a specific set of duties and responsibilities to ensure people receive the right care and support against a charging framework that's fair and transparent, including means testing. The Council conducts a financial assessment to determine how much an individual can afford to contribute towards their care costs. And setting fee rates. The Council sets a standard fee structure for services which helps manage costs by ensuring that providers charge within these limits. You can see details of these on the Council's website. And negotiating contracts. The Council regularly engages with the wider provider market to negotiate contracts with a view to securing a fair price for services which can help manage the overall cost to service users. And how will Kirklees guarantee that standards of care will remain the same for your loved ones, for all our loved ones, that staff ratio will reflect need? The Council has a crucial role in working with Kirklees Care Association and wider care providers to ensure good standards of care are met and that staffing is in line with the needs of the residents. In the Health and Social Care Act 2008 and regulations in 2014, in relation to staffing, it states that sufficient numbers of suitably qualified, competent, skilled and experienced persons must be deployed in order to meet the requirements of this. In summary, this means that all care providers must ensure that they deploy enough qualified, competent and experienced staff to enable them to meet care needs of residents and meet their regulatory requirements. The Council and the ICB also have a robust process of contract monitoring and quality assuring care homes in Kirklees. A range of professionals visit care homes on a daily basis. There is also a schedule of visits planned throughout the year, carried out by the Council's care home contract and quality team, alongside NHS partners. Care homes are also inspected by the Care Quality Commission. These inspectors assess various aspects of care, including safety, effectiveness and staffing levels. The CQC ensures that care homes comply with fundamental standards and can take action if they fall short. And families and friends and partners visit care homes every day. And if you report anything you see that's inappropriate, anything you see that's wrong, that's where we can carry on monitoring and take action.
So thank you for attending the meeting, and thank you, Councillor Addy, for your response. Are there any other deputations? No. Are there any public petitions? No. Okay. I'm going to move on to agenda item 7, which is public question time. So 3 public questions have been received and responses have been circulated. Supplementary questions will be permitted if the person who submitted the question is present at the meeting. So can I please invite Mike Foster to ask the supplementary question to question 1, please?
Thank you. For those of you who haven't seen the question that we submitted and the answer that Councillor Addy provided, I'll just remind you, which is coming back to the figures that were mentioned earlier. According to the Cabinet figures, the homes currently cost £1,290 per person per week to run, but the Cabinet is suggesting the private sector will be able to run them for £853. Our question was, that leaves a shortfall of £437. How will that be addressed? I think that Councillor Addy has so far failed to answer that in her response to the deputation. But in her written submission to us, she said the difference is accounted for by independent sector providers.
Mike, can I just stop you there, please? Could you move on to the supplementary?
Yes, I'm just enlightening the council as to what the response was.
They've already seen them. They've already seen the question, and they should have already seen the answer.
I'm pleased you've got them, and I hope that you've read them then.
As I was unable to attend the council meeting last time, I watched online, and this is very salient. When people are watching online, the public have got no idea of the initial question. It's throwing somebody in at the deep end. For goodness sake, can't we at least have the question, then we know what it relates to?
The questions... Members have already had the questions and the answers. So for if you just let me finish. So members have already had the questions and the answers. So you should already know the background to the supplementary. In terms of members of the public who are watching online or in the reception room, this is something that we can take back to the next, the next Audit and Governance Committee meeting. When we have a response, I can come back and brief the council. But for now, we are going to stick to the council rules. So, Mike, could you please ask the supplementary? Thank you.
Well, I was halfway through Councillor Addy's answer. The difference, she said, is accounted for by independent sector providers having lower operating costs than the council. In any event, residential care is means tested, so individuals using services only contribute
Mike, I'm going to have to stop you again.
That they have been assessed.
You either ask the supplementary, what you've been invited to do, and if not, I'm going to ask you to leave. I'm going to have to ask you to leave.
I haven't asked the question yet.
I've explained the process quite clearly. You're here to ask a supplementary question, not read out the answer to your original question. So if you've got a supplementary, I'll give you another chance to ask the supplementary, and if you're not going to ask the supplementary, I'm going to ask you to kindly leave.
Thank you, Chair. The supplementary question is as follows. Councillor Addy leaves a lot of unfilled gaps and further questions which will be explored at length by our campaign. But surely the private sector, and we call it the private sector, I'm not sure why the Cabinet insists on calling it independent. These are for-profit private companies, like Severn Water or the Post Office, for example, both highly regulated but constantly failing in their legal duties to bill payers and sub-postmasters. But, in our opinion, and in terms of the question, can the private sector run their homes for less because they will be blatantly cutting staffing costs, as the Cabinet report clearly states. Does the Cabinet agree with the Institute of Financial Studies that low-paid and unsupported staff will produce worse results than well-supported staff with decent paying conditions? Except in this case, these clients are not widgets. They are the most vulnerable people in society who need our care and support. And if individuals will only be contributing what they can afford for their care in the private sector, who will make up the difference? If it is the council that's going to make up the difference, then where do you expect to save money, especially as you anticipate not recouping the full value of the homes when you sell them off as a going concern?
Could I invite Councillor Addy to respond, please? Thank you. And again, respond to the supplementary, please.
The independent sector or private sector, whichever phrase we're using, can make savings. The council with just 2 care homes can't. The Cabinet report dated 8th of October 2024 utilising an estimated market rate expressed as a unit cost per bed per week of £853. This equates to the average cost to the council based on the full range of contracted dementia beds across Kirklees. Any difference in care costs will be governed through the council's charging framework and fee structure for care services. The council will continue to contribute to care costs for low-income residents based on the outcome of a financial assessment. This applies to most of our existing residents across the 2 homes. The contribution will be applicable for the client whether they are in an external home or in a council-provided care home. As I pointed out earlier, most of our dementia care residential clients are in the independent sector already. They would contribute the same amount as it would be dependent on their independent ability to contribute through a financial means test. It's not based on the actual cost of a residential bed. Service users who meet the threshold for financial support will be supported in line with the charging policy following a financial assessment. Service users who self-fund their care will involve a private arrangement between the service user, family representative and the care provider. This arrangement will vary across each care home. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Addy. Thank you, Mr Forster. Could I please invite Sarah Newton to ask the supplementary question to question 2? And could I just remind members and members of the public, we do only have 15 minutes for this item, so I would prefer the people that are here with their supplementaries, they get the opportunity for their supplementaries to questions to be asked and then the answers to be heard. So, Sarah, when you're ready, please.
When I chose Castle Grange for my dad Ernest, this is Ernest. Thanks for looking, Councillor Addy. This is my dad. By that I meant you didn't. It was because it was dementia only. And the design of the building as a dementia-only care home meant it could maintain his freedom, which he needed because he gets anxiety and it increases his behaviours caused by dementia. When I went round and viewed many dementia homes, as you call them, they're not full dementia homes. They are care homes that have a section that deals with dementia. These are areas of a care home where our loved ones are locked away upstairs without freedom of movement, that have to be accompanied through every door, which increases anxiety levels. I didn't want that for my dad. I chose Castle Grange because I didn't. In your response, it was very tick box procedural response, which I expect from the council after our last campaign. But it doesn't answer my question or my main concerns, which is, will my dad be locked away on a dementia floor if the ownership is transferred?
I apologise for not looking at the time you pointed out. I was writing down notes about what you were saying. So, while I appreciate your fears, this home is being transferred as it is. It's being transferred to dementia specialists, people who specialise in dementia care. And what you have witnessed somewhere, I have not seen in other care homes. People may have access to this area, lounges, to their rooms. I haven't seen people locked away. And of course, there are strict rules about how people can be treated. So into the future, we'll be passing on Castle Grange as it is to a dementia care provider. And I would like to think that Ernest will continue to have that freedom in there. That is what we are aiming to pass on to specialists who will look after those residents as they're looked after now.
You said like
Sorry,
something.
Sarah, you don't get another supplementary.
She doesn't answer, sorry.
So, if you've got a question...
answer.
You've answered... Have you answered, Councillor Addy? Sarah, you have another question. I'm going to ask you to move on to the other question that you've got, please.
Right, since our loved ones, relatives of Kirklees, have had very different experiences of the private sector, resulting in them moving their loved ones from dementia care homes in the private sector within Kirklees to the specialist dementia care home that is Castle Grange and Claremont House. You can understand why we remain extremely fearful of the effects this may lead to early decline of our loved ones who are suffering from dementia, because changing staff of what's happening around them can all instigate that. So if you know dementia, you will know that is a fact. So with those concerns, we'd like you to actually take our concerns into consideration, and we don't want you to do this, I wouldn't call it a consultation that you're doing at the moment, dividing us off one by one to speak to. I would like you, Councillor Addy, to come and speak with the relatives to understand what this means to us and our loved ones. And I would like you, because in your written response you said that you can write into establish contractual agreements, I would like you to come and listen to us and to take away what is right to ensure those contractual agreements are met, such as they can't change the use for 10 years, which would be the life expectancy of our loved ones. And whilst we're on that subject, can you also clarify, because you keep correcting us and saying there's a difference between specialist dementia care and a home that specialises in dementia. Can you please clarify that to us, because I don't see the difference.
Could I invite Councillor Addy to respond, please?
I'll last bit first. I think what I've been trying to say is that there is no difference. A specialist dementia care at home that specialises in dementia care is the same. Castle Grange and Claremont House are the same as the private providers who have dementia care homes that specialise in dementia care.
They're not.
You just told me that they're the same, and I'm trying to clarify that for you. There is no definition under the care homes that differentiates between those two things. They don't have anything at Claremont House and Castle Grange that is different to that. It is one thing. And then you've referred to the future. Now, we can guarantee so far into the future we can pick the right provider. But in 10 years' time, we had no idea. We were going to have to close these homes, and that's where we got to in the future of these. Now we're looking to a future where we transfer them wholesale. So you talk about changes. We're hoping that we'll be able to transfer everything wholesale. So the residents will still have the residents around them that they know, the staff around them that they know. There are no guarantees into the future, but I'm happy to come and listen to you and hear you as a group of residents. Our consultation is individual. The official consultation is individual, so we can look at individual people's needs, individual fears, without people being sidelined and at the back of the room who can't get to say what they need to say about their individual relatives. But if you want to talk to me as a group, I will come and listen. But I can't take that as that's not part of the consultation. That is you talking to me. The consultation is going to be with individual families, because then individual needs are looked at, and that is very important.
My family can't
Thank you, Councillor Addy,
those.
and thank you, Sarah Newton.
Selected
for attending.
view.
Thank you. I just want to take this opportunity to remind members of the public when they are coming to full council meetings, they're aware of the council procedures, in particular with public question time. I also would just like to highlight that the deputation did overrun by 2 minutes, and I allowed that because I understand people are passionate and are affected by this personally in many ways. So I used my discretion and I allowed the deputation to go over by 2 minutes, but I would appreciate it if not just members of the council but members of the public read the rules, understood what they were coming here for and adhered to them, because otherwise I'll just have to stop and ask them to leave, and they don't want that, and I certainly don't want to have to do that. Thank you. Moving on to agenda item 8, West Yorkshire Combined Authority minutes. So this is to receive for information the minutes of the West Yorkshire Combined Authority. The minutes are here for noting. Are there any comments or questions regarding the minutes? Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just a point that, according to the minutes, Cathy was present but also sent apologies. So I suspect there's a typo in the minutes, but it may wish to refer that back.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Martin Bolt, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On page 20, it's a seasonal and topical subject, bus stops shelters improvement programme. When Kirklees Council approved the controversial Murfield 25 planning application on Murfield Moor, which is over 200 houses and a massive industrial estate, West Yorkshire Combined Authority were a consultee. What the residents got to encourage them out of the cars as bus stops on the side of the A62. So when you're something like 400 metres above sea level, catching the westerly wind as we get now, blowing the rain across, it's hardly encouraging people to take public transport. What we should have had, but apparently what West Yorkshire Combined Authority failed to apply for and Kirklees didn't see the benefit of, was bus shelters complete with real-time information. I noticed recently when I was walking on the, I think it's a £7.5 million road improvement scheme from centre of Huddersfield back out to Cooper Bridge. There are bus shelters, but there are no real-time information. The bus stops on the A62 at Leeds Road, luckily I had an app on my phone when I came to catch a bus into Huddersfield the other day, because the bus timetable was 10 minutes behind the app, and the bus came in line with the app. So a member of the public would come out in time for the bus and miss it by 10 minutes. So can we have a concerted effort that when major planning applications are coming in, and also that our members seek to improve through their membership and their leverage. Now we've got this system with a Labour Council, a Labour Mayor and a Labour Government. Let's see some facilities improved for the passengers, and then as we achieve this utopian dream of the Mayor of controlling the buses, then people will have somewhere to wait in comfort for these mythical buses which are going to arrive on time. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bolt. Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As my colleague mentioned bus stops, it prompted me to ask a question about bus stops as well. I've been attempting since June to get a bus stop reopened at the bottom of Rowley Lane in Lepton. It's been closed because of a landslip. They have put a temporary bus stop in place, which is right on the junction of Rowley Lane and Penistone Road. And this is where the school children gather to get their bus. There's no pavement where this bus stop is. And from my point of view, it's a road safety issue. The answers I've had is they've been trying to find out who owns the land that caused the landslip. If you actually walk up to where the bus stop is and look up, there is a huge big sign that says Homes from Honey, because it's a land that's being developed at the bottom of Rowley Lane by a developer. Our planners are involved with this. I pointed this out. I've even sent them a photograph showing the big sign that shows the developer. But yeah, still since June, nothing. And I keep chasing. So perhaps we could ask Metro or I think it possibly may be the council, I'm not sure, but I'm sure the relevant cabinet member will pick this up for me, to find out why it is, since June, we've not been able to get the bus stop cleared, the landslip moved, the fallen soil, etc., and get our children back to waiting for the bus in a safe place, rather than dangerous corner of Penistone Road and Rowley Lane. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Pattison, please.
Thank you, thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clarify, I think, the apologies given by Councillor Cathy Scott are correct. It's not a typo, because technically at that point of time, Cathy was still our representative on the West Yorkshire Combined Authority, and I was there as the proportionality representative. I mean, Cathy did give her apologies that day. And just in terms of the bus stops, sorry, does it say she was present?
Yeah, it says both.
Oh, no, I think, actually, I think Councillor Habiban did turn up in her place, actually. Habiban. Anyway, sorry, I beg your pardon. So that bit was a mistake. But just in terms of the bus stops, yes, we'll certainly pick both of those comments up, but I think both of those comments were not actually comments on the minutes, because that is a project or a programme for the future. And maybe some of that future money could come that way, but certainly we'll pick those up. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. Councillor Martin Bolt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On page 21, can I congratulate the Normanton Rail Station Park and Ride, and in doing so congratulate Normanton Town Council and Wakefield District Council for what seems to be a remarkable effort. Here we have in this report two sums of money adding up to nearly £7 million for an improved rail station park and ride. At Cabinet last time we heard how strangely Network Rail and the Transpennine Route upgrade are investing money in Kirklees household waste site in Dewsbury, but failing to invest money in a similar park and ride site in Murfield, which is the third busiest station in Kirklees. And members will be not surprised to know it's the only one with a direct link to London. So why is it that Wakefield Council is successfully bidding for £7 million to improve park and ride at Normanton, a town of similar size to Murfield, but this administration and its predecessors are failing to support one of the busiest stations in Kirklees?
Councillor Pattison.
Again, I don't think that's actually a comment on the minutes of the Combined Authority. I take your points on board, Councillor Bolt.
Thank you. If there are no further comments or questions regarding the minutes, I'm going to move on to agenda item 9, which is petition debates and the future of Cleckheaton Town Hall. So following the submission of a petition which exceeded 3,000 signatures in respect of the future of Cleckheaton Town Hall, a petition debate shall now take place. So I'd like to invite the organiser of the petition, Councillor Andrew Pinnock, to make a representation to the meeting for a maximum of 5 minutes, and then Council may debate the petition for a maximum of 15 minutes. Councillor Pinnock.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Cleckheaton Town Hall is one of the 4 major town halls in this borough, all of which are prized assets, or should be. They are all listed buildings and all have features of note. They all have a proud and cherished place within each of their communities. However, Cleckheaton Town Hall is different from the others in that it is closed and has been either wholly or in part for 2 years. More than that, over the past 20 years or so, it has missed out on vital maintenance when the other town halls did receive this attention. And I'll come back to that in a minute. At this point, I will pause for a little bit and suggest that we stop thinking of the building as Cleckheaton Town Hall. It might be in Cleckheaton, but it actually serves really quite a large area of the Spen Valley and places further afield, like Murfield, for instance. It has the only publicly owned large hall anywhere in the new parliamentary constituency of Spen Valley. It has one feature in particular which makes it attractive for dramatic and musical groups, and that is a stage with a proscenium arch. And for those who don't know what that is, it's what you would normally find in a regular theatre. It sort of puts the stage in an outline. Because of this, the building has played an important role in the economic and cultural life of the area from the time it was opened in 1892. There has been a degree of frustration on the part of local elected members about the slow pace of solution finding. However, now that Cleckheaton members have seen reports and discussed the subject with the Cabinet member and senior officers, we can say that the building is generally structurally sound. The main cause for concern, apart from the falling plaster, which was the cause of the original closure, is the lack of regular maintenance. Consequently, many of the features and systems in the building, like the electrics or fire doors and things like that, need to be upgraded, and there, of course, is a cost attached to that. But this is a capital asset, the council's capital asset, and needs to be maintained to a proper standard to stop problems in the future. Although the hall does serve a much wider area than just Cleckheaton, its closure has produced quite a severe economic impact on the town centre. Events throughout the day, which include the University of the Third Age, for example, which used most of the town hall for most of the week, which attracted large numbers of people, meant that local shops, cafes and restaurants did a very good trade. A lot of that has now gone. To conclude, I would urge the Cabinet that a decision to carry out repairs is taken as soon as possible. Yes, and I know the financial situation, but there is an economic imperative, if you like, related to the Kirklees plan, which talks about the vitality and viability of town centres. And I just think that Cleckheaton should be able to take part in that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Pinnock. Councillor John Lawson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Normally at this point I'd be standing up and thanking officers for a report brought forward and what have you, but it's not. It's a petition debate. So who we do need to thank are all the people who signed the petition to enable this debate. They came from all over West Yorkshire and Spen Valley, not just Cleckheaton. Cleckheaton can't lay sole claim to the hall. It belongs to everybody in the surrounding wards. There is a deep sense of ownership and a matching sense of loss since the building was mothballed. The building has survived 28 Prime Ministers, starting with Gladstone, 11 or 12 economic recessions, and the almost complete loss of the wool industry that drove its former fortunes. During that time, the town hall has become a cultural bedrock. It's part of the fabric of the town, and it's well loved by the people who visit and live in the town. Normally at this point, and I've reprinted that for some reason, it has drawn nationally, people nationally to the Folk Festival, which now is sadly without a venue or a future, it seems. The stage, unique to the area, and I mean that in the other town halls, unique to the area, accommodates all flavours of entertainment from amateur dramatics and dance schools to comedy and music. One of the saddest elements of the mothballing is that the University of the Third Age, which had a staggering 600 members running a bewildering array of courses, Since leaving the venue has more than halved in membership. The natural way in which the U3A tackles isolation is being lost. Looking forward to the weekly event, the acquiring after people who don't turn up, the friendships made, the shopping trips made for somebody who's under the weather, it all adds up to something that is bigger than the sum of its parts. It's not just a building, it's a social dynamo humming away in the town centre. And that is what has not been understood when promised investment repeatedly failed to arrive. Businesses have lost out without question. The town hall as a destination brought a lot of footfall, parents grabbing a cuppa while their children rehearsed, perhaps doing a bit of shopping along the way, people arriving early to concerts so that they could have a meal. When the decision to mothball was still a rumour, I was approached personally by several businesses who were working on the projections for the coming year and weren't able to tell if that trade would happen or not. Lots of businesses in Cleckheaton are small independents and took a big hit when the town hall, with its free parking, closed its doors. They relied heavily on the town hall as a consistent form of trade. Now, don't get me wrong, other town halls in the borough are just as significant and important to their communities, and we don't begrudge a single penny that has been spent on them to make sure that they're fit for the future and that Kirklees fulfills its cultural stewardship role. What needs to happen now is that the constituency of Spen Valley gets the sorely needed investment that has repeatedly missed out on over previous decades. The future of the hall belongs absolutely with Kirklees. I realise that there are difficulties in costs in delivering services and that work needs to happen to make it pay its way. As previously mentioned, the draw of the stage offer is significant, but there are so many other opportunities. Our partners in West Yorkshire Police and the NHS might jump at the chance to have a presence in the area, but have they been asked? The possibility of our own staff to work from there has been talked about in the past, and it wasn't too long ago that housing had a presence in there. I've mentioned in the past that surplus rooms might have a rental potential if only we approach the right market, and that startups might be able to tap into grants. I don't know if they can, but nobody seems to have tried any of these routes. There is a support group working on ideas for the town hall, and now is the time to talk to them. Get to understand the possibilities that there are there and treat it as an opportunity. Understand how the loss of the hall would make any of the small town funding irrelevant when or maybe if it arrives. And lastly, understand that the pride that our constituency has in that town hall, and that if you're travelling from the north of Chain Bar into the borough, it's the first public building you see, and in its current condition, that was completely avoidable. It didn't have to happen, but now we're ended up once more with a bit of a mess on our hands. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Councillor Hall, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. To associate myself with the comments that have already been made, really, by Councillor Pinnock and Councillor Lawson. And thank you to Councillor Pinnock for referring to this town hall for its real name, which is Spenborough Town Hall. And to remind members that Spenborough comprised not only the Cleckheaton ward, but also the vast majority of my own ward and parts of Hetton Wyke and parts of Burstall and Birkenshaw ward. And it was one of the largest urban district councils in the country before it was subsumed into Kirklees. And it was raised by public subscription. And so I suppose the philosophical question for the Wednesday Night Philosophy Club is, when is an asset a liability? Because local residents would see that building as a tremendous asset and always have done. The council, of course, regards such buildings as liabilities because they soak up money. And somewhere, somebody was talking about an asset and somebody else is talking about liability are never going to meet, are they? And somewhere we need to decide, what are these buildings for? Who's going to maintain them and how are they going to be paid for? But on that line, it has to be said that these things are foreseeable if we don't invest in the assets we have. And this is a choice that has been made by the administration. Because as we've pointed out many a time, the administration are still proposing to put tens of millions of pounds of money into Huddersfield, into this event space, which I feel is not necessary. The cost of doing that, of course, is that we haven't that money to invest in our existing assets, which are now falling to rack and ruin and into dilapidation. And not a mile away from Clackheaton Town Hall are two buildings that I've referred to often in this chamber. We've got the old Gummersall First School, which is now in an awful state because the council decided they were going to move the Guardians out. Up until the Guardians moved out, we'd got a roof on, it was watertight, and it was looked after with no broken windows. It now has half a roof, it's completely rotten inside, we have nobody living in it, and it's all steel shutters, and this is on the curtilage of a conservation area. This was a bad decision by the council. We've also, in the opposite, got the Red House. The Red House, of course, which was the museum. We have worked with the council to try and find a future for that building, and we will continue to do so because it's an iconic building and it's a listed building. The problem is, as soon as the council moved the Guardians out, guess what? The roof went, it's now damp, and who is going to buy that building when it's going to need tens of thousands of pounds in investment just to get it to watertight status? So, unfortunately, these things are foreseeable, and we've warned about it before. And it's a sorry state when the administration continue to push for these tens of millions of pounds to be spent in Huddersfield on something we don't need, and at the same time we've got assets all around the borough which I'm afraid are falling into their dilapidated state because we're not upkeeping them properly. Thank you, Ms. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Martin Bolt, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, can I congratulate Councillor Pinnock and the Clackheaton members and all the members of the public for securing this important debate. As has been said, it's not a local issue, it is something which serves a much wider area and one which over the years I've had the pleasure of attending on many occasions. Just read something from the internet. We will refurbish this historic listed building, bringing more events and activities. The refurbishment will focus on the concert hall, the key cultural asset within the building, introducing a cafe bar, improving accessibility through the building, and enhancing the space through the building of a focal point at the heart. Sadly, Madam Mayor, that doesn't refer to Clackheaton or Pembroke Town Hall. It's the investment that the people of Morley are getting in Morley Town Hall, where that area will be refurbished, something which this council may want to come across the border and have a look at. We're talking about assets and liabilities. Part of that is generating income. If anybody wants to take a trip across the M62, they'll find that Morley Town Hall, which is being refurbished next year, is currently a location set, once again, for a TV programme. It's been featured many times on TV and film. This all brings money into the council and into the community. I wonder why we don't do that with some of our buildings more often. As I say, I've enjoyed it. Those of us of a certain age may remember the likes of Emperor Roscoe, Dave Lee Travis, Tony Blackburn and others attending Clackheaton Town Hall for discotheques. Whatever happened to them as well? Mum, we've had many theatrical performances. I was pleased as Mayor, as I'm sure my predecessors and hopefully successors will do, to be invited by the Pembroke British Legion to their concerts. Where are all these activities going to help? We've been hearing about the folk festival and things like that. These not only benefit the immediate town hall, but they benefit the wider community. The money that the folk festival alone brings into the vast area of Pembroke constituency cannot be underestimated. So we should be looking at that. And I would hope that there'll be the option to look at how we can achieve something. It's often been said by predecessors on the Labour benches that it's easy to find an excuse not to do something than a reason to do it. I hope under this council these have changed and we can find a reason to maintain this asset in the north of Kirklees. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Bolt. Are there any further comments? If there aren't, I'd like to receive and note all the comments made and move on to agenda item 10, which is... Sorry, Councillor Turner. There's always one.
Yeah, it's usually me. So, Madam Mayor, thank you very much. I was quite
naively, I thought we might have a reasonable discussion on Cleckheaton Town Hall, but of course we drifted into all sorts of other areas where the various parties decided to have a pop at us. So anyway, so Madam Mayor, we are working on a very detailed report that not only looks at Cleckheaton Town Hall, looks at the wider assets across the north of the Kirklees. And that will come to Cabinet when it's completed. We may get it for the December meeting, but that may not be possible because we need to make sure that this report has all the information that we're looking for before we make any decision on the future of it. As Councillor Pinnock pointed out, they have had a private briefing with myself and senior officers, so they know the situation where we are with Cleckheaton Town Hall at the moment. We wanted to engage them early on so that we could to get their feedback. No one can doubt the passion and public support there is for Cleckheaton Town Hall, and that's why I think this debate was important. And it's really interesting to hear the views of other people before we finalise that report. However, we did drift into other areas, and I can assure Councillor Bolt that we do, where possible, use our buildings for filming. Oakwell Hall has been in many things. We've used various other buildings. I think we seem to think, going back a few years, we used the George for some sort of science fiction film. So we do that where it's possible. So we do get that investment. There was a couple of questions about investment in our buildings. I think Councillor Pinnock said for the last 20 years we failed to invest in our public buildings. For the last 20 years, a lot of the time this council has been hung, so there's no overall control, and your party's been in control. Your party's been in control. So if it's a failure of investment, it's a failure on all our parts, not just this administration's.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. I'm now going to move on to agenda item 10, which is the Corporate Governance and Audit Committee Annual Report for 23-24. Councillor Homewood, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. So, appreciate we've got a busy agenda, so I won't spend too long on this, but there is a few things I'd like to say about this report, and actually more about the Corporate Governance and Audit Committee generally. Because I think the idea of this report is, and I think we started last year as part of the SITFA guidance, to really report back.
Sorry, I'm going to have to stop you there, Councillor Homewood. Can I just remind members to, again, be respectful when someone's up speaking? One meeting at a time, please. I don't want to have to name and shame who's doing it, because I can see you all, believe it or not.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I was just saying that we've started, this report's come for this is the second year that it's come, and it's about really explaining to the council what the Corporate Governance and Audit Committee is doing, so that you're aware of that, and so we're bringing that to you. And what I wanted to say about it really was first to just talk a little bit about the committee, because I think that there'll be some members here that have been on the Corporate Governance Audit Committee or have been a cabinet member that's attended or attended in some other form, but most people haven't. And I think, like a lot of people, when I was asked to be on the committee, I thought, gosh, that sounds like it could be quite boring. I see a lot of long reports coming from there that don't mean a lot to me. But actually, being on there gives you such a good understanding of what's going on in the council in terms of the finances of the council and the risks to the council. And actually, that's what we all need to know as members. When we're having these discussions, we're not often thinking about what's the financial impact, what are the big risks that the council's dealing with, why are certain things more priority than others. So the first thing I wanted to say is just actually that it's a really interesting committee, and if people are interested in it, I would recommend people to come to the committee, become members of it, because one of the things that I found as chair is that it's really important that we have people with knowledge and experience on there. It's one of the committees where actually it's not a great idea just to turn up and chair the committee, which is what I did. I think actually somebody who's been on that committee where possible for a year or 2 years at least, where they really understand what's going on, is beneficial, because one of the roles of the chair is to really scrutinise what's going on and set the agenda for the meeting. That's difficult to do if you've not had that, background there the year before. So I was just say it's enjoyable, and people should definitely, if they're interested, do that. Read the reports. I think it'll give people a really good understanding of what's going on in the council. So last year we also had our first independent member start, and this is again about broadening our broadening the work of the committee. So we've got lots of great members, but not all of us are accountants or in a background in finance. So sometimes by having independent members, we can get some additional insight that we wouldn't have. So we've done that with one independent member, and last month's council we agreed to get another member.
Councillor Homer, do you want to just clarify what you mean by independent member?
Yes, sorry.
Just for people that are watching at home.
Not, yes, sorry, I don't mean independence as in politically independent. I mean independent as someone from outside the council who has some experience in audit or other relevant experience, who isn't a non-voting member but can bring some additional insight. Thank you for that clarification. So we'll continue with that. One thing, this isn't anything that the Corporate Governance and Audit Committee can take credit for, but I think it's important for us to reflect on as a council, is that we do have our 2022-23 accounts signed off as a council, which is really important because it means we're where we should be in terms of having our accounts in order. And certainly as a member of the committee, it's much easier talking about this year's accounts than talking ones about 4 years ago and trying to work out what's going on and what's relevant now and what's not relevant. So the fact that we're in that position is really good for the council and makes their jobs easier on the committee. So obviously in the report it's got all details about all the things that we've had through the committee, but I just wanted to, for me I think it's about, are we adding any value, what can we say about things we might have done that have added value. So I think the key things that we've done is clearly looking at our external audit and the value for money reports. The key thing for us as a council is okay, we've got a budget and we've got plans, but are those plans deliverable? Are they reasonable? And the Corporate Governance Audit Committee, along with scrutiny, having assurance that those things are happening. So I think that's something we've really started to build on more last year and going into this year, really getting more into the depths of that and making sure we've got the right reports coming to the committee. The other thing that I think we've done as a committee is we've been really worked hard with the officers about saying, we get lots of reports with actions and risks and actions and stuff, and sometimes, what shall I say, sometimes our actions aren't always actions when you read them, or sometimes they're a bit unclear, or when we're aiming to deliver an action is unclear. So I think we've really worked hard as a committee with our officers to improve that and to get into a better place where we have better understanding of what our risks are, what our actions are, when we're delivering them by. And I think that will help us, and that's something that is where the Corporate Governance and Audit Committee can add value. The other thing that we've done very much is looked at our internal audit reports and said, where we do have actions that are overdue, we want to know what's going on. Why is that not being delivered? And again, that's something we're working more with Councillor Taylor taking forward this year to add some value to say, okay, so all well and good for us to receive a report telling us we've got 3 overdue actions, but why are they overdue? Let's make sure we get the officers to come and tell us, because if it's not a good reason, we need to know about it and we need to make sure that it's delivered for the good governance of the council. So that's all I really wanted to say, Mayor. Mrs. Mayor, thank you very much for everyone for listening. And I've got something formal that I'm supposed to say. I move that the council receives the annual report and notes the assurances that the committee complies with the CITFA position statement on audit committees in local authorities and the police. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Homewood. Is that seconded? Councillor Taylor?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I raised to formally second that, but I'd also like to make a few comments as well. Thank James for his chairmanship of the committee and passing it on. I think I agree with everything he said. It's a shame in a way that the other Councillor Pinnock isn't with us this evening, because Kath would, again, I think she's often said that this is the most interesting committee in the council, and she's determined she's always going to be on it. I don't think in the Liberal group you have any choice about who's going to be on that committee, do you really? But it does cover a whole range of areas, and what we have, and as Councillor Homewood said, we've started to do is make sure that we're adding value. We see ourselves as a critical friend of the administration and of the officers, and what we will try and do is when we see reports where, as Councillor Homewood said, things haven't made the progress that they were meant to make, we will on occasion ask for people to come and tell us why not. And that in itself is a useful tool where perhaps officers aren't necessarily getting the support they need to get things done, or perhaps things have been a little neglected. We can make sure that those things are pulled forward. I'm quite proud to chair this committee. It is a bit of a mouthful, corporate governance and audit, and everybody goes, I have no idea what that means. Often you have just an audit committee, but we look at the both elements of that, and I think actually it works well. And I would encourage people to occasionally just come along and see what we talk about, because we cover everything from, you know, the finances of the council to Martin's law and emergency processes and procedures in place, through what else do we do? Do we look at? Mine's gone blank now. I stood up. There's a whole range of things that we look at. But I think I'll shut up now. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Are there any comments on this matter? No? Shall we move to the vote? Show of hands, please. All those, well, don't even have to say anything. All those in favour? Aye, that's carried. Thank you. Agenda item 11. Report of the Members' Allowances Independent Review Panel. Again, this is reference from Corporate Governance and Audit Committee. Councillor Taylor, you have 10 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I don't think we can take 10 minutes. The report's quite straightforward. You'll recall that we had a detailed debate last year on members' allowances, so this is a much simpler report that's come forward today. I'm happy to formally move the recommendations which are outlined on page 1 of the report, and the recommendations are that A, no changes be made to the 2024 scheme other than to apply the same percentage pay award awarded to officers to the basic allowance and SRAs, and to be backdated to the 1st of April 2024 when known. Secondly, to continue to apply the same percentage pay award awarded to officers to the basic allowance and SRAs in subsequent years as per the 2017 recommendations of the Democracy Commission. And thirdly, to note that the panel will reconvene again during this year to consider the scheme for 25-26 in line with the issues identified in the report, which are set out in Appendix A, along with any additional issues determined by the panel. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Is that seconded? Councillor Homewood? Okay. Are there any comments on this matter? No? So we will now go to the vote. Again, by show of hands, all those in favour? That is carried. Agenda item 12, overview and scrutiny annual report. Please can I invite Councillor Smage to introduce the annual report. I understand that Councillor Smage is going to move from the Deputy Mayor's chair. Yeah, that's fine.
Microphones because I'm speaking in my former capacity and not in my current capacity, just to make that clear. With all due respect to Councillors Homewood, Taylor and Pinnock, I actually think that scrutiny is extremely interesting as well. Right, okay. So I have pleasure in presenting the Scrutiny's annual report for 23-24. During the year, we continue to make progress with the Democracy Commission's recommendations, and training was provided to councillors and co-optees, with a full programme available for current and new scrutiny members and chairs. And I hope that was of benefit, especially when we had new lead members during the year. My thanks to all members who were on all of the panels, lead members and co-optees. And my thanks also to scrutiny officers who had to navigate through a year of changes in membership of those committees. We also were able to undertake more pre-decision scrutiny, and last year I discussed about difficult decisions and that scrutiny is needed not just on easy decisions but also on those difficult ones. And that it is even more important to have good scrutiny at this time. That scrutiny needs to involve the scrutiny committees being able to have presented to them all relevant information in a timely manner, and indeed that is mentioned in legislation. As an example, the Management Committee last year was able to undertake pre-decision scrutiny on a decision to be put to the Cabinet on Kirklees Active Leisure, and our recommendations were incorporated into that Cabinet report so that they could be considered as part of that decision making. Recommendations are needed when undertaking pre-decision scrutiny so that they can be included in that Cabinet report, so that scrutiny's voice is there in that decision-making process. And it is then for Cabinet to respond to those recommendations. As always, it's important that scrutiny members act independently of politics. And I know it's difficult. I know it is. But it is important that the role of critical friend is not undermined by politics. For Ovian scrutiny work to act as that check and balance to the work of Cabinet, to act as a critical friend, there needs to be a supportive culture of the scrutiny function. It is described as an environment conducive to effective scrutiny, importantly led and owned by members, given their role in setting and maintaining the culture of an authority. By being that check and balance, hopefully we can ensure that decisions are sound, local councillors consulted, and that business cases are in place and decisions taken at the right place at the right time. The work over the year was varied from all the committees, and I would ask if there are any lead members who wish to speak on their committee, please do so. Just a few items that I do want to highlight though. The maternity work that both the Health and Adult Social Care Panel and the Calderdale and Kirklees JOSC have undertaken has been invaluable in understanding what the problems were when we didn't have a birth centre in Kirklees, to the position we are in now where the Bronte Birth Centre is open again. In fact, the Calderdale and Kirklees JOSC had this item on their agenda just yesterday. Unfortunately, Mid Yorkshire weren't able to attend. However, we have sent them a letter. On JOSCs, we currently have just Calderdale and Kirklees, as I've mentioned, looking at the continuing work around the reorganisation of CFT, a mental health JOSC between 3 local authorities on changes to older people's inpatient mental health services, as well as the West Yorkshire informal JOSC, scrutinising the ICB. Finally, from me, to the current lead members and panels, have courage. The work programme is your decision. Remember, scrutiny is there for pre-decision work, looking at policies and strategies, but it is also there to scrutinise how those decisions, policies and strategies are operating and how they are affecting residents in Kirklees. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smage. Is that seconded? Councillor Burke?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to second that and also to thank Councillor Smage for all of her work whilst being Chair of Scrutiny last year and for all the years that she's been Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Burke. Are there any comments or questions? Councillor Cooper.
So, yeah, I completely agree that of the necessity of keeping politics at the out of scrutiny, and I think I've managed that pretty well. Anyway, so yeah, in terms of my time as chair of the Children's Scrutiny Panel, one of the reflections I have is that officers were really on top of it. In terms of the stats, what lied behind the stats, and so that really did bode well for the Ofsted inspection, and so I was not surprised that the Ofsted inspection came out well. What it really did, my time on there really did show me was the breadth of work going on help with staff, giving them staff the backing that they needed, particularly in the education sector. And so that was something that I found really encouraging to see that. One area that is an area of regret, I think, is that we didn't hear more about the impact of some of the SEND issues on parents and families. I mean, a few years ago, I didn't have any casework regarding special educational needs. Now, and I know a lot of people here certainly do have. And so I think the voice of families who are experiencing difficulties engaging with the council need to be heard, because for us to be able to improve services, we need to acknowledge the difficulties that people face. And I think that's something that I wish we'd have picked up more during my time on the Children's Scrutiny Panel. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor David Hall, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Could I also give my thanks to everybody that's been involved in scrutiny this year? And we need to remind ourselves periodically that scrutiny is a very necessary part of the cabinet model that we operate, because of the critical friend, but also because of the involvement of most members, or a fair proportion of backbench members, in the scrutiny process, which is a great introduction to the way that the council works. And we should also my thanks to the independent members. One thing when I was reading this, which I found very interesting, was that there are a lot of things in here that are reported as outcomes, and they're all there, and it's good to see. It would be nice to revisit some of these to see whether actually the outcomes and the recommendations have been adopted by the Cabinet or by the officers or by whichever committee, and if so, what was the outcome of that? Because then we actually get to see how scrutiny is being involved in a proactive and a positive way in changing the lives of people, rather than just commenting on what's happening. So just that little caveat might be interesting for future years to pick up on. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Hall. Councillor Kendrick, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm a fan of scrutiny. I was a fan of scrutiny when I was a member of scrutiny panels and a chair of scrutiny panels, and I was chair of adult social care and health long ago, but it did help me know what the business is, and it really is a way of knowing what services are provided and how those impact on members of the public. I find children's scrutiny an effective and critical friend, both in the past, and I'm finding so very much currently with the new chair of children's scrutiny. We are trying really hard to do predetermined decisions. Sometimes we miss a trick. I hadn't really thought about the recommendations, but I take your point, Councillor Smage, and any advice and help on that would be welcome. And we have been, well, officers have mostly been, but we've been suggesting as councillors on Cabinet, Councillor Amanda Pinnock and myself, different visits and different teams that they should meet, different groups of parents and so on, to help Councillor Ali become even more productive, although she has a work programme from hell. But I do wish her well, and I find the relationship effective. It's challenging. We're not always buddy-buddy, but we're not enemies either. It's about helping us get things right. So I'm a huge fan of scrutiny. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Kendrick. Councillor Martin Bolt, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And can I also thank all the members of Scrutiny and Councillor Smage for her time. And let's remember that Kirklees has for a long time been recognised as one of the leading lights in Scrutiny. And thanks for that must go back to what's probably called the founding father of Scrutiny in Kirklees, our former colleague Andrew Polfram, who put a lot of work into establishing the principles that we now have. And I think that should be recognised. Looking through the report, there's a few things which I'm pleased to see have made progress, but are worthy of note. On page 97 or 37, depending on which you're looking at, it talks about a highway safety update, and there's been 6,546 bikeability training sessions. For those of us of a certain age, this is the modern thing that we used to call cycling proficiency, but it's lead on. The difficulty is it doesn't tell you to what standard the bikeability is delivered. And I'll declare an interest as a qualified bikeability instructor. and someone who's developed the programmes, I know that there are 3 different standards trained for the areas that you're expecting the young people or trainees to go out on. Level 3 is to assist someone to go out on what we would call a normal road, not a quiet road, a back road, a closed road, but one which may enable a child or someone else to get to school. So we have the issue that we're delivering 6,456 sessions, but probably not to the standard that would enable them to cycle to school and therefore reduce the number of vehicles around those schools, which in turn causes problems for ward members. We also have to ensure that we don't just look at this in isolation. It's no use giving education without infrastructure. And again, referring back to when we ran the administration, we developed a Safe Route to School scheme that served 4 schools in North Kirklees. It was the forerunner of something called the Ringway, and we may hear more about that if we get round to written questions. But certainly, as has been said often, unfortunately, Madam Mayor, I don't sleep soundly in my bed for the development of the Ringway as I was promised 3 years ago. That's an excellent opportunity to deliver off-highway infrastructure so that people can get safely around the area. It's great to encourage people to cycle on roads, and I welcome into the many cycling clubs round here, but we've got to give them in gradual perspective. There's a Cabinet revision on the Cabinet decision of calling on the review of the car park charges. And it says there, one of the outcomes, that within all future Cabinet reports, the reasons for the decision, the financial implications and the options should be included. Sadly, this wasn't the case when it went to Cabinet, in particular with regard to the public car park in Murfield. Firstly, and it's available on the webcast if anybody wants, it was erroneously referred to as the station car park. Nothing could be further from the truth, Madam Mayor. It's referred to as either the library car park, town centre car park. It is on Station Road, but by no expression could it be the station car park. It was also said in that report that by this Cabinet and this leadership wanting to extend it to a long stay, they didn't want to displace commuters and cause problems. Madam Mayor, for many years following successful consultation by ward members with shop owners and residents, we arrived at a 3-hour maximum parking. I don't know many commuters who would be able to park, go to work and come back within 3 hours. So where are these commuters that are going to be displaced, that are already parking there? I asked, and it wasn't given, about the financial impact for Murfield Town Centre. Now, strangely enough, on a previous call-in for Cooper Bridge, one of the outcomes there was answers to technical questions were provided at the scrutiny panel, but these should have been answered at Cabinet prior to the decision being taken. Once again, at the last Cabinet meeting, there was no officers providing technical responses, and sadly the members weren't even able to provide those. So how can you take a decision when you haven't had answers to the questions that people ask? Financial data on the impact of our shoppers. We were told that moving to a long stay car park, in effect a commuter car park, which if people are parking there at 7 o'clock in the morning to go to Leeds, London or wherever, could see no spaces for shoppers. So that clearly must have an impact. But we were told that there are spaces available in the town for these vehicles. Sadly,
could you begin to draw to a close, please?
I will. Sadly, Madam Mayor, despite numerous emails to officers, nobody has told us where these spaces are in Murfield Town Centre. So this seems like a decision based on a falsehood. And I would refer the leader to her comments when taking control. We need to bring people with us as we improve services. Throwing an amended report at the 11th hour, which disadvantages the people of Murfield and indeed those from Cleckheaton or wider who come to use Murfield rail station, which is the only rail station in the new Spen Valley constituency,
Councillor Paul, I'm going to have to stop you there. You've gone over by 45 seconds.
Thank you.
Sorry. Councillor Pattison, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would respond to Councillor Bolt's comments there on car parking, but I don't think those were actually in the overview and scrutiny annual report. So unfortunately, Martin, that will have to wait for another day.
If the leader would look at the report, it says calling in relation to revision of car parking tariffs and charges. That's clearly to do with car parking.
Please continue, Councillor Pattison.
Thank you. So scrutiny has been consulted on car parking, but that's not what I wanted to say. I just wanted to say that yes, I too am a great fan of scrutiny, and I think it provides an absolutely valuable opportunity, not only for all members of the council to actually get involved and contribute to the work of the council and this chamber, but to also, as it's been said, learn what needs to happen and to provide balance to the Cabinet. And I just really, I mean, the main point of rising to speak was to say that yes, we do, the Cabinet will take on board comments made by scrutiny, be it pre-decision scrutiny or after the event of any decision. So I have heard everything that you've said, Councillor Bolt, and we will take that on board, as we were anyway, I have to say. But I do want all members, I mean, just to reiterate again, I do want all members to get involved in scrutiny, to take up those places on scrutiny panels, to attend the meetings, to do work on the research that often you need to do in the background, to fully participate, and that really does help with the decision making, both of the Cabinet and officers of this council. And I would also just say that I think actually the honour should go to Sir John Harman for actually not just instituting scrutiny procedures here in Kirklees, but I think he was very much responsible for those being taken up as across the country in all councils. I think some of us will remember the commissions that he held, which were to sort of mirroring what happens in Parliament, and one of the first ones was on Yorkshire Water, which actually did result in some changes to the way Yorkshire Water provided its services in those days. So it's always been a valuable tool of this council and others. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. Councillor Addy, please.
Yes, I was just going to say how much I'm welcoming now in my new role, the experience I had in scrutiny, and the fellowship of scrutiny with councillors of all parties, under Councillor Smage as the chair, sat alongside Councillor Lawson, who's now the chair of the HAS scrutiny panel, sharing their experiences and being able to hold people to account, to ask questions, to look at delivery. If without my time on particularly the HAS scrutiny panel, the West Yorkshire JOSC and the CHFT briefly before I took my new role on, I wouldn't been in a position to start from where I am to do it, and I really welcome into the future the members of those panels keeping checks, looking at things, asking questions, delving into things, asking for deep dives, and bringing things to me whenever they feel, because I think it's very important. And I'll say my door's open in the health and adult social care capacity for people to come to me with anything.
Thank you, Councillor Addy. Councillor Cooper.
I listened carefully to what Councillor Pattison said and the high regard with which she holds scrutiny. I wonder if Councillor Pattison can tell us a decision that has changed as a result of scrutiny, something that she was going to do that is now, or the administration was going to do, that is now not going to be done. I'd be interested to know what those are.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Are there any further comments? No. Right of reply, Councillor Smage.
members for their kind comments about scrutiny. It is an opportunity for members to learn about the council, but not only about the council, about how health partners operate as well. Because health scrutiny is very different to scrutinising in the council. And it takes a while to get your head around all the technicalities, etc. So it is actually a good way of finding out how things work. Yes, Councillor Cooper, you were okay. You were. I only had to look over my glasses a couple of times, but you were okay. But triangulation is an important thing. What you said about not just having reports, but listening to experiences, and also what Councillor Kendrick said about visits. It is important that it's not just a meeting in a room looking at a report, that you get triangulation of information so that you hear other voices as well. That is really important. Councillor Bolt, well, yes, there was a calling on car parking in this report, but on the decisions that have been made since May, I will, obviously it's not for me to comment, okay? So that would be for the current scrutiny lead members to comment, not myself, all right? I think probably I have I've covered everything there, so, but thank you very much, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Smage. The report, is here for information and to note. That concludes agenda item 12. I am now going to call for a 20-minute break. I'll see everyone back here at 7:30. Thank you. so we'll pick up from where we left. So agenda item 13, appointment of chair for licensing and safety committee. So the council is asked to nominate a chair of the licensing and safety committee, which will take immediate effect. Do we have any nominations? Councillor Pattison, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I nominate Councillor Eric Firth for this role? Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. Is that seconded? Councillor Crook. Are there any further nominations? Any comments on this matter? Okay, we'll go straight to the vote. So we will vote electronically for this. Is that all right, IT? Yep. So green for, red against, and yellow for abstain. Thank you. That is carried. Councillor Firth, congratulations. Agenda item 14. The council is also asked to nominate a chair of the personnel committee, which will take immediate effect. Do we have any nominations? Councillor Crook.
Nominate Carol Pattison.
Thank you. Is that seconded? Councillor Sokol? Thank you. Do we have any further nominations? Okay, we'll go to the vote. Again, same order. Green for, red against, and yellow abstain. Okay, that's carried. Congratulations, Councillor Pattison. Agenda item 15, written questions to the leader, cabinet members, chairs of committees and nominated spokespersons. A written schedule of submitted questions and responses to those questions has already been circulated, and to any members of the public who are watching at home, this will be available online. I will now invite members to ask any supplementary questions in turn, and the appropriate member will respond. Can I just remind members that it's one supplementary question to each submitted question, please. And if we could go straight into the supplementaries, because there are quite a few questions that obviously have got supplementaries for, and I want to be able to get through them all for the interest of those watching at home. Thank you.
In the interest of the public, I did submit a question on the 23rd of September. And my question is not listed.
Thank you for highlighting that, Councillor Darwin. If you give me a moment, I will just get some guidance on why that might be. Just bear with us.
Thank you.
Could you just clarify who the question was sent to, please, Councillor Darwin, whilst we try and find out what's happened, please? Sorry? So could you just clarify who that question was sent to whilst we tried to...
Sent to Andrea Wood.
Andrea. Thank you. So as officers have a look to work through, that and try to get a response as to why that might be, I'm going to just continue with the agenda, and as soon as officers come back to me, we'll get back to you, Councillor Darwan. It will be at some point in this meeting, but I'm conscious that there's quite a few supplementaries that we need to get through. So if I continue with that, and as soon as the officers pull me up on it, I'll let you know. Is that okay? Darwin. So, Councillor Taylor, could I ask you to please ask your supplementary to Councillor Crook? Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Crook, for your response to my initial question. My supplementary question is, do you agree with me that it is unacceptable that these losses from the district heating scandal first arose in 2022, were first made aware of in 2022-23, and yet it appears nobody bothered to brief the relevant portfolio holder. That suggests to me a failure of governance, and officers need to be held accountable for their failure to actually make sure that you, as the Cabinet, were made aware of where we're losing £1 million a year. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. Councillor Crook.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I don't think it would be right for me to comment on issues and the governance around those issues from before I was in post. I do have detailed briefings on this issue now, and I'm perfectly happy to stand up and take political responsibility now. Clearly, this issue goes back to 2013. I wasn't a councillor in 2013. The form that my political responsibility takes is in putting things right now to ensure, A, that we rectify the situation as it stands, and B, to make sure process in place to ensure that it doesn't happen again. I think actually it was first reported by audit in 2019, so I think it goes back a little bit further than you'd originally indicated, and was in some form, and I haven't got the papers from that far back yet, reported to the Almo board at that time, because Homes and Neighbours was outside of the council. But I'd absolutely take your point that the situation as it stands is not ideal, and I will be doing everything I can to put it right as quickly as possible, subject to ensuring there are no welfare issues with any of the tenants involved in this situation for now. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. Question 2, Councillor Taylor.
With reference to a point of order, may I propose a suspension of standing orders? At the last council meeting, there were a number of items lower down the list which didn't get heard, and there's a real risk of that happening again today. So my proposal is that we make sure that we get to those points today, and if it means staying behind, I'm happy to stay behind as well. That's my request. Thank you. The very important points of order, and what it is we have to be accountable to all our community in our wards, and although these points are very important, we do need to make an effort and try to get through this list today.
Councillor Cahoot, that wouldn't be a point of order. That would be, obviously, you'd need to propose that, and you'd need somebody to second it, and then we'd go to the vote. Okay.
I'd like to propose that, please.
Thank you.
Which items?
So which items would you like to bring forward?
Items 20 and 21.
Thank you. Do you have a seconder for that? Seconder. Councillor Safdie, are you seconding? Thank you. We are going to take a vote on this. We're going to use consoles, if that's okay. IT? Yeah. Same process. Okay. That falls, Councillor Cahoot, so we're just going to continue with the agenda as it is. Thank you. Sorry, so Councillor Taylor, question 2.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Patterson, for your response. Do you agree with me that given this district heating scandal, that the matter should have been brought to the attention of the Cabinet as soon as it became clear that significant losses were being incurred, and that it's not acceptable that they waited until the internal audit report was actually published, not produced, published, because it was actually produced in the first quarter of the year. Do you think it is unacceptable that they delayed advising your predecessor's leader of the council at the time the incident arose?
Councillor Pattison.
Thank you, Councillor Taylor. I think I have to give the same advice as Councillor Crook has just done to your previous question. I was not briefed on it until Councillor Crook was briefed on it on October the 1st. I do have to say I wouldn't call it a scandal, and there's some debate as to whether it's actually a loss or a subsidy. But at the same time, I do take your point, and yes, we will be doing what we can to correct it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. Question 3, again, Councillor Taylor.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Taylor, for your response. It does seem like a bit of a theme here. I think it is a scandal, because it's scandalous that since 2013, nobody took responsibility in this council for ensuring that energy costs, as they rose, were reflected in the charges to tenants, some of whom are private owners of those houses. For me, my question, my supplementary is why were the £1 million losses, and it's £1 million in 1 year, £500,000 the next year, and the projection for this year is another £500,000. Those members who aren't aware. Why was that hidden in the budget? Why wasn't it made clear? And why wasn't there an entry somewhere in a risk register to show that we had a contract that was out of date? We had for 11 years not reviewed the charges for the tariffs. And this, let's be clear, the people who are picking up these costs is not all of the taxpayers. It's our council house tenants, because this goes against the housing revenue account, not the general fund. So all of our council housing tenants are going to have to cover these losses. And do you agree with me, Councillor Turner, that this should have been much more transparent from the finance team during budget negotiations and discussions? Thank you.
Don't forget, most of the time that this... All right. Most of the time that this was ongoing, when this started, this was in Alamo, an arm's length organisation with its own independent board. The first time I was made aware of it was a couple of weeks ago at the end of a cabinet meeting on a Monday morning, and that was the first time I was made aware of it. So unfortunately, I couldn't budget for it because I didn't know it was happening.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Question 4, Councillor Khan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Okay, my supplementary question is, this delegation allows the Cabinet member also to bypass Cabinet altogether. This is the one budget that affects every single councillor in this room. It's literally the only kind of power that we all have in our wards. So instead of working towards more inclusion and collaboration, I feel that powers are being centralised. I'll get to the question now. I want a simple yes or no answer to this, Councillor Pattison. Does the current leadership plan to claw back underspend in this financial year or scrap the ward budget in the next budget?
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Pattison.
Can I pass that to Councillor Turner, whose portfolio...
So it was a yes or no to the rollover. No, there will be no rollover. That was very clear in last year's budget, which you voted for. And as to what's in this year's budget, we are still working through this year's budget.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Question 5, Councillor Khan.
Madam Mayor, where do I stand when the Cabinet member hasn't answered the specific question that I asked? I didn't ask about rollover, I asked about clawbacks and whether further decreases would be occurred in the next budget. Where do we stand when people don't answer our questions?
clawback, rollover, call it what you will, if there's any unspent money at the end of this financial year, as was in the budget proposal which you supported, that will be taken back into the council's budget. And we are still working through the budget process. We're a long way yet to developing a budget for next year, and we'll have to wait and see what's in that budget. But the budget protocols, at this time, I cannot comment on specific items that may be in that budget.
Thank you for that, Councillor Turner. Councillor Khan, question 5, please.
Okay, thank you very much. As a supplementary, as the longest-standing councillor for Dalton Ward, will I be consulted in the discussion around the parking permit issues around the stadium? Again, a simple yes or no will suffice. Thank you.
Councillor Munir Ahmed.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the last Cabinet meeting, Councillor Khan comments were noted and extensive discussions have taken place with the ward councillors in terms of the effects of the car parking review and in terms of permit holders as well. And the issue that has been discussed and the response is very, very clear, and the answer is that the service is going to be reviewed and the options are going to be with the highways and the legal colleagues over the next month or so. And in that position, there will be discussions with the options with the cabinet officers and all the information will be made available to the ward councillors as well.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Khan, question 6, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a supplementary question, is the council leaving itself in a weaker position when negotiating contracts with private companies, especially with the most costly care areas in the market, like dementia care? How long-term financial risk assessments have they been undertaken before taking a decision to privatise? So the question specifically is about long-term risk assessment, not short-term gains.
Sorry, Councillor Hardy.
Hi. Well, you were talking about risks, and I think you've raised the risk issue before. Risks are something we have to measure for and take care for and plan for, and we have a robust process in place, so we will be measuring those risks against the necessity of meeting the budget this year.
Thank you, Councillor Addy. Councillor Jo Lawson, please.
Thank you. My supplementary question to Councillor Turner would be, can you assure us that the extension to the Netherton Greenway isn't actually going to end up like the Ringway in Murfield between Heckman Dwight? You have talks about landowners. Can we actually have some further clarification as to how far these talks have happened? And you also talk about, I'm pleased to see about the WICA funding, which is actually brilliant, but can I have assurances that the Section 106 money from the various developments in Netherton is still in place to be used for the extension to the Netherton Greenway?
Thank you for the supplementary. I'm not entirely sure where it came to me because it's not really within my remit. If there's any Section 106 monies outstanding that are allocated to this greenway, then they will be allocated as in accordance with the legal binding agreement of a Section 106.
Sorry, question 8, Councillor Lawson again.
Thank you, and can I thank Munir for actually ringing me this morning and having quite a good chat on both the questions that I actually raised. What I would actually say is many of my residents asked why notorious hotspots within Crosslandmore and Netherton, too many to name couldn't just have cameras put up, as they are sick and tired of reporting fly tip. Could you explain how a hotspot would be thought of as in need of some proactive work instead of a reactive, let's just clean it up again? Is it due to the size of fly tipping or the number of times an area is fly tipped? Is it only areas notorious for so-called unlicensed trader waste that are targeted with cameras? And how many cameras are in use at any one time across Kirklees?
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. Councillor Ahmed.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. In terms of why do we have hotspots, it's because there are issues. And in terms of fly tipping, there are key indicators which officers look at. And that is very much statistics, and as well as the complaints and the antisocial behaviour that they pick up. So in terms of fly tipping collections and the numbers of collections, that's actually looked at. Fixed penalty notices in terms of how many we have, in terms of the enforcement is looked at. And the enforcement in terms of the fly tipping tonnages and the amount of tonnage that is removed from there, it's not just one individual aspect to actually come up with a hotspot, but it is about that. And also the ward members in terms of what they're picking up in terms of the concerns that they have. So it's determined in that way to be very consistent and to prioritise the urgent areas. And what I can confirm, and which is what I did indicate to you, was one of the hotspot in terms of the Crossland Moor area has been identified in terms of the issues around parking, but that's your next question. But those are it. So we will always look into zero tolerance policies, and I just want to indicate to you what the policy says, that Kirklees Council would take enforcement action against the perpetrators of fly tipping where there is enough evidence. It's evidence-based, which is always a very difficult thing to do. And we always insist and ask people that if they can get some evidence and some information of the perpetrators, and we will take action against those, regardless of whether they are private or council-owned. So there is a criteria, there is a set process to prioritise the work, and then hotspots are determined as a result of that.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Lawson, question 9, please.
Thank you. I won't argue the point, but how many cameras are actually in use at any one time within Kirklees? But we'll move on to traffic enforcement. I'm actually thrilled that finally there may be some more proactive work in getting offenders who are antisocial parking on double yellow lines within Crossland Moor, and especially at the Dryclough Road, Blackmorefoot Road area, because I personally drive round that corner at 5 miles an hour because you know there's going to be somebody parking there. My supplementary question is, you say that there's going to be 6.5 new traffic enforcement officers. Will this really have a significant difference spread across the whole of Kirklees? Because I'm sure each ward has its own Dryclough Road. And why have the posts been vacant for 9 months when there is obviously a need? Thank you.
Councillor Ahmed, please.
Thank you, Councillor Lawson. In terms of the additional 6.5 posts that are going to be recruited, that's good news. We are actually recruiting them because we have identified the issues that are there in terms of parking. So that needs to be welcomed. And in terms of the actual recruitment, there have been operational difficulties. I don't want to go into it, but people have been on maternity leave and long-term sicknesses. So the vacancies are there, and the vacancies are there to be recruited. And from an operational point of view, that will be carried out, and it's actually being done.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Question 10, Councillor Safdar, please.
Yes, a question to Councillor Tyler Hawkins. In regards to redundancies, we do sympathise that the council is in a difficult financial position. However, in light of reassurance by yourself and others about working in partnership with trade unions, and we've got concerns about the hybrid working policy. Will this policy be implemented without trade union agreement? Unison have been informing us that informing the council for a number of months now, this policy has not been agreed fully. In these uncertain times, will Kirklees work effectively with the trade unions? Because many of the members are very concerned.
Thank you for the supplementary, Councillor Safdar, greatly appreciated. We do work very well with our trade unions within Kirklees. We meet formally on a quarterly basis as part of the corporate joint consultative group, which is the executive leadership team attend, with myself chairing, as do trade union reps from all unions within the council. We have, outside of that, we have informal dialogue with the trade unions. In fact, I will be going to see them, Unison, at their office on Monday. So we will keep that dialogue going about these issues and continue discussions with them around hybrid working, as well as the redundancy policy and other issues they do raise with us. Thank you for your question.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Question 11, Councillor Safdar again, please.
Yes, so my question was, as Leader of Minority Administration to Councillor Patterson, how do you intend to work better with and more constructively with other groups and independents who outnumber your group significantly? Many members of the public see that the system isn't quite democratic right now, even though some may argue it is. So are we going to have a more inclusive direction going forward?
Sorry, Councillor Safdar, you've just asked the question again. You've had a response to that question. Would you just clarify what your supplementary is for the leader to then respond, please? Thank you.
Yes, so my supplementary question is how are we going to reassure the public that the councillors, especially in these difficult financial times, are going to utilise all talents across this chamber, because there's lots of members from different groups and different parties who have a lot to offer apart from just cabinet members.
Thank you, Councillor Safdar. Councillor Pattison, please.
Thank you. I think I possibly actually answered this earlier on in speaking about the Overview and Scrutiny Management Committee annual report. But I mean, all members do have an opportunity to feed back, certainly to their constituents, on the work that they are doing, both in their communities and within the council. And of course, within the council, it's just as important that all members do participate where they can in scrutiny panels, in other committees, and in ad hoc working groups that do spread up. I mean, exist. There is, as you've already been told, the Budget Working Party, which is cross-party, and all groups are represented there. And there will be one on the constitutional reform. Just for instance, there's often issues that come up where all members from whatever party or group are asked to contribute. So I hope all members will continue to do that and then feed that back to their residents. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. Question 12, Councillor Arshad.
Madam Mayor, the response to my written question was quite off the mark and very vague. So I want to refer back to Councillor Steve Hall 3 years ago in response to Councillor Martin Bolt's question about using the windfall to purchase the former railway cutting to complete the Heckman White Ringway. He assured us you can sleep quite safely and sound because we're on it. And apparently, further in the conversation, we're a week into it. Everything's been taken care of in Heckman White. So, yet here we are with little progress and mounting concerns that this project has been neglected. Can you now provide a detailed written update on all the specific actions taken by the council officers since then, including any proposals drafted, negotiations with the landowners, and efforts to secure the land from illegal activities like dumping waste? This is now the third council leader, third MP, and the second term of Mayor Tracy Brabin. With Save the Ringway as being often highlighted during the campaign, where is the follow-through on these promises, and why were residents rather than council officers tasked with drawing up cost plans for a project of such importance? Now, you did say I would very happily work collaboratively with any local group to try and move this project forward, and we will work with you on this.
Councillor Crook.
Thank you, Councillor Arshad, for your question. Response off the mark. I mean, we do our best to answer the question in collaboration with officers, so I apologise if you haven't found that to be a decent answer to your question. I can't answer for Councillor Hall. He's no longer a councillor. I'm sure that whatever he said was said in good faith at the time. I'd rather look forward. I think that the Ringway and Greenway cross Spen are a fantastic resource for local people. I've been spending quite a lot of time looking at them recently, and I'd just like to reassure that in terms of active travel, I'm absolutely supportive of active travel projects. In this particular instance, I understand there was a small strip of land which prevents the connection of the Ringway and the Greenway, but commonly I think people are crossing that land anyway, so that might be something that local groups want to take into consideration. I don't believe there is a project to join the two together within the council, so I don't think development proposals have been worked up. I understand that the owner of the land is reluctant in a realistic sense to part with that piece of land at the moment, but I'm absolutely happy to work with any local group in terms of developing a proposal or putting together a proposal which might lead to that connection, because I can see the value that would provide for the local community and for people coming in to visit the area. I understand that Sustrans run the other two parts of the path, so it would be, hopefully in collaboration with them. They're an excellent organisation, so let's join together and see if there's a way we can work forwards. In terms of funding for active travel projects, I think funding for any project is very difficult at the moment, but we've got a fantastic transport team within Kirklees, and part of that team looks at active travel in particular, and we'll be developing projects which will be ready to go on the shelf so that we can bid into funding pots when they become available. There's no reason why we can't work with local groups to see if we can put forward a little bit more development on a proposal for that particular project. I'd just like to add that Active Travel England have recently kept our capability rating in West Yorkshire Combined Authority at level 3, which is joint best in the country. That really helps us to bid into active travel projects, so we need to think a little bit more regionally than just locally, and perhaps we can include West Yorkshire Combined Authority in bringing forward some of our active travel ambition in this part of the region. I think I'll probably leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Crook. That brings us to the end of all the questions that were submitted. I understand from officers in regards to the point that Councillor Darwan made earlier, a motion was submitted, but there wasn't a separate question with that. That didn't come in on time, so having to stick to procedures, we won't be able to hear that question, but if you would like to, you can resubmit the question and we will happily bring it back to the next full council meeting. Because my understanding is questions need to be submitted 3 days in advance, at the latest.
I submitted the question on the 23rd of September 2024. According to my calculation, it was 3 days before that, well before. And I would like to ask the question, because once before I accepted and respected the fact that it wasn't in time. So this time I made sure it was there on time. I'm not blaming anybody, but I would like to ask my question.
So, Councillor Darwan, my understanding is that the motion was submitted, the question was as part of that motion, which is why, because something did it, if you just let me finish first, please. My understanding is because it didn't come through as a separate question, it was misinterpreted by the officers. However, I will allow you to ask your question, because I understand that there may have been a loss in translation between officers and the way it was submitted. So I will allow you to ask your question, and if whoever it's directed at, if they respond. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to ask a question, because it was very kind of the Labour leader, Carol Patterson, to say they would want to fly a peace flag across Huddersfield and Dewsbury Town Hall. My question is, what kind of a peace flag is it, please?
Councillor Pattison, and if I could just remind members to be respectful in this chamber, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The peace flag that is in the possession of the council is a white dove on a blue background. I understand. I've not actually seen it myself. And the protocol is that if any flag is to be flown, it is up to the mayor, the chief exec, and the leader to agree to that. There hasn't been an occasion yet when that has. We have chosen or decided that should happen. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. Councillor Darwan, do you have a supplementary? Yes,
I do. Senior Labour politician with the name of Sadiq Khan, he proudly put the colours of Israel flag up the City Hall. He lit up the City Hall. It was not Palestine, it was Israel. Please, can the Labour leader explain? Oh, I've asked you that, sorry about that. When 700 Israelis got killed, a senior Labour figure said that he was proud the colours of Israel flag lit up City Hall. He further added, it's really important to show solidarity to Israelis who have lost their lives. People all over the world condemn the innocent killings of over 50,000 Palestinians who have been killed, and the killing continues. The Israeli government is guilty of war crimes and breaches of international law. These crimes have included murder, the international targeting of civilians, killing prisoners of war and surrendered combatants, indiscriminate attacks, collective punishment, starvation, so on and so forth. Hang on, one moment, please.
Supplementary.
If this council doesn't recognise this as terrorism, then I wonder how this will be affecting our children who are watching this. The Labour politician was additionally hoping that Israel would know that there is love for them around the world, know that there are people thinking of them and who have them in their hearts and prayers. So why is it that we as a council cannot have a Palestinian flag as support of solidarity?
Councillor Pattison.
Just suffice it to say that actually terrorism is not part of the remit of this council, though of course we absolutely deplore what has happened in the Middle East and is continuing to happen in the Middle East. But can I respectfully suggest, Councillor Darwin, that the question you have asked is not a question, it's a motion very much along the lines of the two motions that we have got on the agenda later on, and that is the correct place to discuss this issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. That brings agenda item 15 to closure. I'm going to move on to agenda item 16, which is minutes of Cabinet, and they are here for information and to note. Agenda item 17, holding the executive to account. So for part A of this item, Council will receive portfolio updates from the Leader of the Council and the Cabinet Member for Finance and Regeneration. So oral questions and comments to Cabinet members on their portfolios are on Cabinet minutes will be at part 2. So we're going to break this up into part 1 and 2. So Councillor Turner and Councillor Pattison will have 10 minutes each to present their Cabinet portfolios. We will then go on to holding the executive to account. So you can ask any questions of the executive, but also you can refer to anything that's been presented in the two presentations that we are going to hear. And we have a total of 60 minutes for this item. Thank you.
So, Madam Mayor, thank you. Hopefully this is some good news, because
Been a really joyful evening so far. I have a few slides, so best bear with me because I don't usually use slides. But I think some visuals will help members to understand the context of what the investment in Dewsbury will look like. And I do promise there are not that many. So slide 1, please. There you go. Like all provincial towns, Dewsbury has seen a change in people's shopping habits and how they use and access town centres. So back in 2020, the then Cabinet devised a long-term plan to regenerate and revitalise Dewsbury to bring it back to life. We call it the Blueprint, and it was launched in Dewsbury by the retail guru Bill Grimsey. He shared our long-term vision to redevelop and change the look and feel of the town, and that's the important thing. It's the feel of the town that we need to change and how people view it. Slide 2, please. There we go. As you can see, can you read that? As you can see, this slide spells out our long-term vision for Dewsbury. I'll give you a minute to read that. Okay, slide 3. So, as you can see from this slide, the investment is not an insignificant amount and is a mixture of council investment, various grant pots and other external funding and some private investment. It's also worth noting, as it's not on here but perhaps should have been, that the new police headquarters is on track and will bring significant amount of people, of police and staff into Dewsbury in the within a year, I suspect the date. We're starting to see major developments come forward. The first big projects to come to fruition will be the Dewsbury Arcade and the flagship housing scheme at Station Apartments. As the Arcade and Station Apartments open, work will commence to renovate the market and create a new town park. I have a few images with a few of these projects. So next slide, please. Dewsbury Market, the leader is going to talk about the enhanced market when I've finished. Slide 5. The work to restore the historic listed Dewsbury Arcade, which sits at the very heart of Dewsbury, is well underway and has a completion date of Q2 2025. And the last time I was at the town board, I'm assured that at this moment in time, this date is still achievable. This historic building will house a significant number of units available to small independent retailers. That will be the first step in the renaissance of Dewsbury. As can be seen from the pictures, it will be bright, airy space with a central pedestrian walkway through the building. Important to note, the Arcade is the first community-run shopping centre in the country, Dewsbury, breaking new ground. And as such, demonstrates ours and the community commitment to do things different to reflect the changing times we live in. Next slide, please. Like most of our northern towns, Dewsbury has some beautiful buildings, and by investing in the shop frontage, they can be enhanced and made to look significantly better, which attracts more customers and increases footfall, which in turn hopefully will attract more business to invest in the town centre. Next one, please. The reduction in both retail and the sort of businesses that will once have occupied the town centre has left a significant number of empty buildings. So we need to redevelop these spaces to create high quality living spaces where it's possible. Not always possible, some of these buildings are very challenging. However, work is well underway at Fieldhouse to do just this, and I'm optimistic that more town centre living will be created in the coming years. Next one, please. As you can see, this is an artist's impression of what the area around the town hall will look like with the enhanced public realm. Not only will this provide a people-friendly space in the town centre, by its very nature it will change the feeling of the town and make it more welcoming. It will also enhance and complement the magnificent town hall. Next one, please. The Town Board is developing a plan for the next 10 years of the programme in line with the funding package announced by the previous government. The 20 million in that programme is yet to be confirmed by the new government. However, we are pressing on in the belief that it will be honoured. From the engagement we have done in the development of this plan, most people have told us they want to see the reuse of all the buildings in the town and for improved safety and security. The Town Board has made significant efforts to engage with the young people of Dewsbury by working with the college and attending events where young people are likely to be, and we extended the time we were consulting so the children and young people were back from their holidays back to the colleges and schools. Their view and what they see as the future of Dewsbury is vital, as they are the ones who will ultimately benefit from this investment and will be the ones who will be using the town centre in the future. By working with the college, we now have a construction skills village in the town, providing much needed training for the young people of Dewsbury. And as we all know, we have a national shortage of skilled people within the construction industry. So this training has a huge potential to lead to permanent jobs and to help in address those skill shortages. As we've seen earlier, work is ongoing to repurpose some of the existing buildings, and more work will be done in future years to redevelop areas such as Daisy Hill, which is in desperate need of investment and redevelopment. One of the more important members of the new town board is a chief superintendent from West Yorkshire. There is a feeling that the town centre is not safe, and it has a poor nighttime economy with few people about. However, there is no evidence that the town centre is any more unsafe than other town centres. So we need to change that mindset, and that can only be done with the support of the police, working closely with the council and the town board and the residents. I'll circulate these slides afterwards for everybody to have a look at in detail. This is a quick canter through the plans for Dewsbury, as time is obviously a limiting factor and the leader needs to speak as well. However, we have a tremendous opportunity over the coming years to change the face of the town and create a town fit for future generations. The TIU will bring huge benefits to the town. This, along with the investment plan, will make Dewsbury an ideal place to live by bringing travel times to both Leeds and Huddersfield and even the dark side. You will be able to work in any of those centres and yet live in an affordable, vibrant town. Madam Mayor, can I now hand over to the Leader of the Council?
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Can't tell if this is working because I've got my hearing loop on, so fine, great, thanks. Right, thank you. Well, the £20 million plus project that is we're investing in the market hall in Dewsbury. It's going to be an absolute game changer for the town. As Councillor Turner has pointed out, this project is intrinsic to the development of the whole of the town centre and not just this quarter, linking the market via the arcade to the town hall square. And these improvements have also the potential to kickstart other investment in the town, which can then spread from this corridor of improvements. For instance, I mean, something that's not planned at the moment, but the old railway station booking office, which looks absolutely ripe for development, and that would be brilliant if our investment brings other investment into that. This slide, so this is how the £20 million investment in the market hall and town park is made up. You'll see that funding is available from the town deal of £7.5 million, and then £7.5 million from our own council's capital plan. The initial plans were more like 26 million, but they've had to be scaled back with an overhaul of review of the plans. So there was going to be originally a separate town park near the town hall, but we've brought the two together, which actually I think is an improvement in the eyes of the public, but also it means that we've managed to bring those two together with a combined budget of 22 million. These plans were agreed via extensive consultation and agreement with both the public and market traders. Planning permission has been applied for the scheme in August this year, and we've submitted a detailed application for Dewsbury Market and the brand new town park. Next slide, please. So this is the internal features of the market hall, as you can see. There'll be room, there'll be 3 independent zones there, eating and drinking, which will be open plan, dry goods, and then the outdoor market. And there is the opportunity for some of the market traders to be trading both into the market hall itself and externally as well. And you can see there exactly how many stalls there are. It's a large, bustling market at the moment, and we will continue to keep that. Next slide, please. Here we have some, again, artist impressions of, this is the internal layout for where it suggested that there could be eateries around the outside and people be able to sit there indoors and eat and drink. Next slide. And another picture of that. And another. And this is the outside of the market hall, and you can see there'll still be an outdoor market as well. So all in all, the plans for the market will create, or some more, sorry, more more slides, artist impressions as well of the connection to the outside on this one, and then there's another one, I believe. That's it, yeah, there's the outside again. I mean, some of these stalls will be demountable, so we can actually have a big event space there, which will be big enough actually for a 2,000 plus audience for music events, sports screening events, and specialist markets as well. So, there we go, thanks. So, there's, again, some more detail of the design features there. As I said, there's going to be demountable stalls. You can see that there's a large amount of green space alongside the outdoor market hall, which will give the opportunity for that outdoor event space and children's play areas, that water feature. It's going to make it easier for market traders to load and to park up during the day without getting in people's way, and then there is an upgraded waste compound as well. So, next slide, please. And there we have the, you can see how the market hall itself sits next to the outdoor market, which sits next to the town park. So the plans for, I think, sorry, next slide again, yes, so and those are some of the design principles that have been used in coming to the final design. We've used flexibility, high quality, varied offer, and light and spacious to give there's much more of an offer, a varied offer, including the nighttime as well, for the residents, not just of Dewsbury, but elsewhere as well. So we aim to continue to improve the traditional market offering, whilst at the same time creating these areas for eating and drinking, socialising and events, and giving people as many reasons to visit Dewsbury as possible. There will also be an opportunity to include more art with involvement from the local community. The whole area, as I've said already, will benefit from this development. Foundry Street, for instance, will become a lot greener and more pedestrian friendly, providing a better and more pleasant connection to the neighbouring Dewsbury Arcade, set to reopen next year, and then about the same time as the work on the town park the market hall will begin. They shouldn't, those two schemes shouldn't get in one another's way. The whole space, once completed, will also greatly increase the number of trees in the town centre, which will be visible from the ring road, creating a much more inviting impression of Dewsbury town centre. And designs will continue to evolve and develop between now and work starting on site in 2025. And as I've already said, we hope all this investment in Dewsbury, totalling 20 million plus 25 million from Wicker for the bus station project, and the Transpennine route upgrade that's continuing, will be a catalyst for far wider economic regeneration of Dewsbury. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. So Part A is now complete. We will move on to Part B. So that's any oral questions or comments to Cabinet members on their portfolios, or anything that you've seen in the Cabinet minutes, or even anything that you may want to ask of Councillor Pattison and Councillor Turner after that presentation. Thank you. Sorry, you've all just started pressing your buttons, so the system's gone a bit AWOL, so if you just bear with us a moment. Right, Councillor Cahoot, please.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. Can I just thank Councillor Pattison for all that information and all that exciting news and all those plans for Dewsbury. We welcome that. Thank you very much. I've had an office on Daisy Hill, so I know what it's like, and hopefully I welcome that as well. I've got a business just outside the town centre, just opposite the college, so I welcome that as well. And it absolutely looks beautiful what the plans are, and you've got a vast amount of money there, haven't you, that you're proposing to spend on Dewsbury Town, and we welcome that. But what your plans and what your drawings excluded was that just across the road from that town centre, from that town hall, is, guess what, lo and behold, is Dewsbury Sports Centre. Where in your presentation was any mention of Dewsbury Sports Centre? You don't need to spend 1 million, 2 million to get that sports centre back open. It's important that you're making these plans for the people of Dewsbury, but they're not protesting outside in the streets for these developments of the arcade. They're not petitioning and signing 5,000 signatures on a petition for this arcade. It's lovely, it's going to be beautiful, they're all going to enjoy it, but what they really need is somewhere they can get some physical and emotional well-being in a sports centre. Can you please, like Councillor Cooper first said before, can you please work with the other councillors in this council and give us an example, one example of when anybody in scrutiny or anybody or any suggestion from any other councillor that you took on board and adjusted your own plans. Why has that not happened? Is it because of pride? Pride should have no place in serving the community. When we have elections, yes, we do politics, but once the elections are over, we're all here to serve the public and to serve our communities. So where is Dewsbury Sports Centre in all of this? Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Cahoot.
Just one example, please, of where you have accepted a recommendation and
Who's the question directed to, Councillor Cahoot? Is it the Leader of the Council?
Yes,
yep. Thank you. What we're going to do is we're going to try and get to, because it's just gone absolutely crazy on here, our systems, I think it's going to crash if any more people press. Just bear with us one moment. So we're going to take one question and then an answer. I think that'll be the best way, just so, because I'm conscious of time as well. So we want to get answers back to people that are asking. So we'll take one question and then an answer. But can I just remind members to be respectful when people are asking questions? They're valid questions. They're not funny. So please don't laugh, because it's really rude and disrespectful, not just to the person that's asking the question, but the area that the question's aimed at. So please just be mindful of that. And if you can't behave, I will ask you to leave the chamber nicely. So be mindful of your actions in here, please. Thank you. Councillor Pattison.
Councillor Turner is going to respond.
Thank you for the question. The predictable question about Dewsbury Sports Centre, the answer, quite simply, the answer is there will be a report coming to Cabinet on the 5th of November detailing the options, the future options for Dewsbury Town, for Dewsbury Sports Centre. So I suggest if you want to pop along to that, you can ask any questions once that report's been
Sorry, Councillor Turner. I'm going to ask members, this is your last warning. The next person to speak over someone when they're speaking, asking a question or answering a question, I will ask you to leave the chamber. Please be respectful.
So as I said, there's a detailed report coming to the November the 5th Cabinet, where the options for the Dewsbury Sports Centre will be discussed by Cabinet, and at that point a decision will be made.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Cahoot, do you have a supplementary? You have got the right to ask a supplementary, but I just want to remind members there's quite a few questions, and if you want to get through as many with answers, you know, you've got the right to ask a supplementary, but you don't have to if you want to get through as many questions and give other members an opportunity to ask. Councillor Cahoot, do you have a supplementary?
If my question was for the leader, and it was with reference to whether there has ever been an instance where someone's made a valid suggestion, it's been taken on board, and there has been a change of plan. So just one example of that would be lovely.
Councillor Pattison.
Of course, I haven't actually been in post that long to have made a decision and then gone back on it, but just I just gave you one, I think, in terms of the plans that there were for Dewsbury, in terms of the pocket park and the plans for the market, albeit that it was going to cost an awful lot of money, but we did ask the communities and the businesses, etc., again, what they would like to see, and this is that the combined park and market hall is the decision that was made then. Not by me, but it was made. We did change our minds, or minds were changed.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. Councillor Cathy Scott, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My question is to the leader. Whilst I welcome the news, who wouldn't, being a Dewsbury representative, about investment within Dewsbury? But there's still that worry that I have regarding safety within that town centre, housing, planning, enforcement, cleansing, and there's a multitude of things, particularly around Daisy Hill area where there's a lot of vulnerable people. Now, my plea has been for years to officers in this council about selective licensing on buildings, particularly on housing where people are being housed in substandard conditions. So in order for all this beautiful stuff to take place in Dewsbury, we've got to clean up our act in Dewsbury, put some investment in cleansing in all the areas to make people feel like they want to be part of Dewsbury. Now my question is, are you prepared to look at selective licensing? I'll keep coming back and asking the same question. And are you prepared to work with councillors from the Dewsbury area? Because whilst the presentation was lovely, the passion was missing because it wasn't somebody from Dewsbury delivering it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Scott. Councillor Pattison.
Yeah, yes, thank you, Councillor Scott. I mean, certainly, I think as Councillor Turner's presentation actually showed, that there is investment going in already to go into cleaning up certainly areas like Daisy Hill. I was there myself only last week, and I know exactly what you're talking about and all the problems and the issues that there are in that part of Dewsbury, plus other areas as well. You can rest assured that officers are doing everything that they possibly can. It's a very difficult situation to actually deal with in terms of the ownership of land and the purposes to which some of those buildings are being used for, which is not good. Whether or not selective licensing is the answer, I'm sorry, I can't actually answer that question. But certainly we will, of course, include all Dewsbury members in any future discussions about the area.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. Councillor Scott, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, thank you. We're emotionally invested in Dewsbury, and I think you can tell by some of the councillors that will be speaking here tonight. I need tonight some commitment and some reassurance that you're not going to continue with the paternalistic view of imposing that this is what they want, because people went to the town board last Thursday and weren't aware that they couldn't speak. There was a 15-minute window to speak. Now, if you're talking about investing in Dewsbury, speaking to people in Dewsbury, talking Dewsbury up, surely they should be given an opportunity to bring these things forward. So my question is not to Councillor Turner, because he was actually there, it's to Councillor Pattison, because she's delivered a presentation tonight of a vision. I want to hear the vision from you.
Councillor Pattison.
Thank you. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by the vision. I thought we just did provide you with provide a vision, which has been informed by residents and businesses of Dewsbury. As far as the town board goes, that isn't a council board. It is a board that's been set up to distribute or to spend a reasonable amount of money in the area, and I'm sure that they will be consulting with all the businesses in the Dewsbury Town Centre as is needed. I'm sorry, I can't comment on the 15-minute window. As I say, it's not a council body.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. Councillor David Hall, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On a different subject, my question is to Councillor Turner. Would you be supportive of any move by the government to impose national insurance payments on employers' pension contributions?
Councillor Turner.
Councillor Hall, what I'll do is I'll give Rachel a ring later and let you know tomorrow.
Yeah, very, very good, Councillor Turner. Give her my regards when you speak to her. This has a serious element to this question, because what might have not occurred either to the administration or the government is the fact that the most generous employers' pension contributions are paid by the public sector. And therefore, if they've got to pay national insurance, as is widely trailed, even by sources in the government, at 13.8%, on the 20% on average employers' contributions we pay to public sector pensions, this is going to be a really big, tidy sum for councils and other public bodies to save. So I wonder whether he might have a word with Rachel when he rings her tomorrow and explain that we're going to be in deep doo-doos if this is enforced.
Councillor Turner.
As well, David. When I speak to her, I will point out this very fact for you. What she may well say is the fact that there's a 20 billion black hole caused by your 22 billion, what's a couple of billion amongst friends, caused by the failure of the previous government.
Thank you, Councillor Turner. Councillor Cooper.
Yeah, this 22 billion that came as a complete surprise to the Labour government. Anyway, my question's to Councillor Addy about the privatisation of dementia care homes. Now, we had a question that I gave, a speculative question, at the last Cabinet meeting, and the speculative question was, if the money was available, say the government provided more money, say there was more flexibility given to the council, would the Cabinet member recommend that the dementia care homes remained in the public sector? Now, I'm very much of the view that you get what you pay for, and that if you pay good wages, if you have a career structure, you get good care. I believe that, and I think most people do as well. And there is, it's well documented the poor pay rates that there are in the private sector for care, and that's an area of concern. And the answer I got was no, effectively. And okay, Councillor Addy, we'll see. I saw your reaction, and that money would, if more money was available, that it would be spread more widely to help, in some undefined way, the wider care needs of older people. So my question is, is there an example that Councillor Addy can provide of where privatisation of public services has worked well? Now, I'll give you some clues. Water services, rail services, the post office, the Royal Mail. Did any of those work well? So if you can just let me know any areas where privatisation has resulted in better services, and why you, as I presume a socialist in the Labour group, believes that somehow or other privatising services results in better services.
Councillor Addy.
I think you did raise that point about this magic money that's going to suddenly materialise from nowhere. And in time, hopefully, we will get some more money to put in to adult social care. And when I said I'd spread it around, I was very clear that I meant we as a council would put that into the fees. If that level of money was ever available, into fees, so that all the care homes could pay their staff better. Because I totally value carers. They're the most important element in our care homes. They're the people looking after our most vulnerable, and any opportunity when that magic money comes to give them more to do their jobs that they do with passion and clearly don't do for the wages, I would take. As for the other things you're mentioning, we're not talking about that. We were talking about 2 care homes in a time where we haven't got the budget to run care homes in Kirklees, and it's gutting to have to get rid of care homes into the private sector. We were looking at closing them. We invested to keep them open and be able to transfer them wholesale to a quality provider. I think you're overlooking that. This is 2 care homes in a situation where we do not have that choice. We chose not to close them. We chose them to pass them on to a quality provider. And I'll keep saying that word, quality provider, because my mother and lots of people in this room will have relatives in the private care sector, and the picture that's been painted of the private care sector is unfair. There are many commercial providers provide great care. If every commercial provider were receiving higher fees from those supported by the council, they could pay their staff more. When that money comes, it will be going into that area. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things to come before that, and that would be an awful lot of money to come. When, again, these things are available, that's where I would put it.
Thank you, Councillor Addy. Councillor Cooper, do you have a supplementary?
Part of the supplementary is when will the council have the ability to dictate wages in the private sector? I've not heard that. That'd be interesting. Let me know how that's going to work. That's one concern. I guess I keep about this magic money tree. It's like hearing the Tories. It's just what the Tories said. It's exactly the same sort of stuff. Somehow or other, it's just the people who've changed. But the arguments remain the same. Tax the wealthy. Provide the council with more flexibility about the way it gets its money. Reprioritise money away from grandiose projects like carbon capture and storage, which are basically going to keep funding the fossil fuel companies. There's lots of things we can do. It's about politics, it's about choices, and you're making the wrong choices. You're making Tory choices. You use the same arguments that Tories used, and here we are again. How gutting is it that we are how gutting is it for you that we are going to have to privatise these care homes? If it's that gutting, make sure that it's your first priority if money does become available. Because, I do believe that things can only get better, and that perhaps somehow or other the government is going to put more money into things it cares about. I hope against hope that the Labour government will actually put money into local councils to get things to make things better. I believe that might happen. But if it does happen, invest in the things that people care about. Invest in maintaining public sector care homes, because I believe in the public sector. I believe passionately in the public sector. I believed in a mixed economy with regard to social care. So, there is no magic money tree. There's money that we can get by making the right choices. So make those choices and save those care homes.
Thank you, Councillor Cooper. Councillor Addy?
If the funding had been there for the last 14 years, we wouldn't be in a position making this decision. We work closely with the Care Association that represents all the care homes that aren't these 2. And we will work with them when it comes to looking at wages. If the magic money tree materialises, you said there's money there. When you tell me where I can get that money to put into adult social care, then I will put it into adult social care. I don't know where you're getting it from.
Thank you, Councillor Addy. Councillor John Lawson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. A question for Councillor Munir Ahmed, and it's a brief one, and I won't take the supplementary. I'll bundle it all up in one, if I may. So, about Oakenshaw Cross, Oakenshaw Cross in Cleckheaton, yep. I'd like to ask who's taking ownership for the restoration for Oakenshaw Cross, and what will be the cost? The supplementary was going to be. Will you agree to meet the residents who are organising the campaign to restore the cross? It's been 2 years now, over 2 years now since they've done, and they're quite rightly very twitchy about whether it's actually going to get done or not. So could you reassure residents on that, and could we have an answer on when and how much?
Thank you, Councillor Dawson. Councillor Ahmed?
I can't give you the details at hand, but I'll be more than happy to have the discussions in terms of meeting the residents and then take the matter further from there.
Thank you, Councillor Ahmed. Councillor Darren O'Donovan, please.
Thanks, Mayor. Yeah, I'm going to talk about Dewsbury, obviously. I've been a councillor for 14 years. I was born in Dewsbury in 1975, and the last time I remember such significant investment and remodelling of the town centre was between 84 and 86, when the council and partners built the Princess of Wales precinct. We pedestrianised the town centre. I say we, I was a kid, wasn't I? But this represents such a huge, huge landmark, a milestone and a game changer for Dewsbury. But it hasn't happened overnight. I think there's an opinion sometimes that the council existed over 2 weeks ago or a month ago. Well, people were coming with petitions and deputations and comments and emails about the town centre and the need for regeneration going back 15, 20 years. When Paul Kane chaired the Regeneration Committee, sadly no longer with it, when Eric Firth did the same. People have been banging the drum for Dewsbury for 15, 20 years. In public, in private, in the council, and it's a long game, and it takes this long to see these kind of projects come to fruition. It came to fruition this time around because there was some favourable financial circumstances that allowed the council to put some money to one side, and there was money coming from government to match it. And that didn't exist in any year previous to that, and it didn't exist any year since that came, and it's taken that long to do it. So yes, people have been going on about Dewsbury, petitions and deputations for many, many years, and this is a significant milestone in Dewsbury's history. And it is about the future of Dewsbury, but it's also making sure that the people who live and work and shop in Dewsbury right now have a nicer, pleasanter shopping experience. It's for the people there now, no matter who they are, it's for them as well. I know as a relatively educated man that a lot of Dewsbury's ill fortune rests with market forces. The retail and commerce map of the country is drastically different to what it was in the 80s. Out of town shopping areas, the rise of city centre shopping in Wakefield, at the White Rose, in Leeds. Dewsbury's biggest plus point was also its biggest threat. It's fantastic to be located so close to big cities like that and big shopping areas, but it's a big threat that doesn't always exist in other towns. And we've shouldered that threat, and we've had the effects of that modernisation in shopping and commerce. But I do remember, and I hope the good times do come back. It's 40 years since that initial investment. I remember going to the cinema in Dewsbury. I'm looking at David Hall because, from what I can think, he's the closest to my age in this room. And I saw E.T. I saw E.T. at the cinema in Dewsbury in 1982, and I saw BMX Bandits in 1983 at the cinema in Dewsbury as well, when you used to queue all the way around in front of Marks and Spencer's and up Bond Street. So I think what's important to remember is that projects like this don't come overnight. They materialise from hours and days, weeks, months, years of dedicated officer and councillor lobbying, application form filling for a bit of funding here, a bit of funding there. And the consultation has happened. The consultation's been going on for 15, 20 years. I was a member of the town board in its first incarnation 15, 16 years ago. And the consultation has never stopped ever since. And it consults with members as well. So, yes, we do need to get behind Dewsbury. We need to, tell people how positive this is. And, I can't speak for the other groups, but we've got to remember that it was a Labour-led administration that's brought these kind of plans forwards.
Wrong, it's questions and comments.
Thank you, Mayor.
He doesn't need to ask a question, it's questions and comments. So if anyone wants to ask a question, they can. If anyone wants to just make a generic comment on what they've seen or want to make a comment towards any executive member, you can do. So he's doing nothing wrong. Please continue, Councillor.
I was actually finished, Mayor. I'll let other people speak. Thank you. Well, I was about...
Thank you, Councillor O'Donovan. Councillor Musrat Khan, any questions or comments that you may have?
Oops. So, right. This is a question for Councillor Hawkins. Yeah, I was really pleased to hear tonight how closely he's working with the unions. Could you please tell me why the unions weren't informed when the enablement and rapid response teams within adult social care were merged a few months ago?
Thank you, Councillor Khan, for the question, much appreciated. As I say, I'll take that operational matter away and raise that with both council officers and the trade unions themselves. As I say, I will be meeting with Unison members on Monday in their building, all being well, and we do have quarterly formal and informal meetings with them as well.
Thank you, Councillor Hawkins. Councillor Khan, do you have a supplementary?
Let you know, the unions contacted management today.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Hawkins? No. Thank you. Okay. Moving on, Councillor Bolt, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, could I just comment, as we can, on something that Councillor Scott said earlier. When during a presentation, Councillor Scott said that the Cabinet member wasn't able to speak passionately because they weren't from Dewsbury. Expanding on that and looking on the website, it seems that none of the Cabinet members live in North Kirklees. So does that mean that the leader has such either a disregard for North Kirklees residents, that none of the council members in her group who live in North Kirklees are worthy, or is it just cherry-picking people from Huddersfield to do the job? Also, commenting and with a question in there, could I ask the leader why her administration is not organising any Armistice Day services and commemorations this year? I've had a look, and the information that's come out from the Civic Office, there are no Armistice Day events, and I think that is disrespectful to our serving military personnel, our veterans, but most crucially those who gave the ultimate sacrifice. And I think when you look around other areas, how much they are doing, yeah, it is disrespectful, and we should be doing that. Reflecting on the presentation that we've seen, a question would be, who's going to run the eateries? We saw that plenty of places in the markets, that where the eateries. I like a reassurance that it's not the Cabinet and Council who's going to run the eateries, because after losing £60,000 in the Spenborough Sports Centre, I think, you know, I would be very dubious about letting people do that again. I'd also ask what's going to happen to all
Councillor Bolt, it's one question at a time.
No, I thought it's questions and comments for a period of 5 minutes. Councillor O'Donovan was able to use...
My understanding is it's a question or a comment.
Could you point me to the standing order on that, Madam Mayor?
For up to 5 minutes.
It is.
Because there's other members that have asked a question, had an answer, and then sat down and pressed their button again to ask the next question.
Just reflecting on Councillor Filibuster from Ravensthorpe, but I'll take the answers and then the supplementaries.
Councillor Pattison.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think I've lost track of the number of questions that were there, I'm afraid. The members of the Labour Party who are members that represent North Kirklees wards are as busy doing various things, such as leading the fire authority, as much as they are as members of the Cabinet. All of the roles that all of our members have got are really important, and they have been allocated, if that's the right word, according to their their best abilities or interests, etc., etc. There is no way that any North Kirklees member in the Labour group has been left out of anything. And nor, for that matter, are we choosing to leave any other member from North Kirklees of any particular political persuasion out of any position of responsibility. And as far as eateries go, well, then, of course, we want to encourage other investors. It won't be Kirklees catering services that will be running the eateries, or that isn't the purpose of the market. I'm sure there'll be lots of different opportunities for all sorts of fare to be sold and eaten within the market. And then, the only other question, Armistice Day, there is. I don't understand why you feel that there isn't anything happening from the Civic Office, because there is. And I certainly will be going to about 3 different events myself. Thank you.
Councillor Bolt, do you have a supplementary to any of those answers?
It's just a point of education. The Civic Office is organising events on Remembrance Sunday, which is the 2nd Sunday in November. Armistice Day is the 11th of the 11th, with the service at 11 o'clock. The emails that came from the Civic Office said that there are events on the Friday and on the Sunday. And I was told by veterans at an event recently that there were no events, particularly in Greenhead Park, on Armistice Day. So that was a point of clarification on that. Could you tell me, though, what will happen to all the containers bought to run the market in Dewsbury?
Councillor Firth.
There is a ceremony on Long Causeway at 11 o'clock on Wednesday the 6th, Martin, if you'd like to come along.
Councillor Firth, but Armistice Day, as I've explained, it's 11 o'clock on the 11th day of the 11th month. Whatever you do in Dewsbury, Eric, on the 6th is up to you. The rest of the country will mark Armistice Day at 11 o'clock on the 11th.
Councillor Pattison.
And just to say that the Greenhead Park Remembrance Day is not a council. It hasn't been organised by the council or the Civic Office for many years. It is run by veterans themselves. As far as containers go, they will be used.
Thank you, Councillor Pattison. That brings us to 9 p.m. I'm going to conclude the meeting for tonight here. Thank you. Good night. Drive safely. See you at the next one.